since then.
Likewise.
I know.
Likewise.
All right, give me just a second and we'll get the meeting
Yeah,
going.
you just let me know.
All right, good morning, Madam Mayor. We're ready to call to order the Wednesday, February 23rd, 2020 Reno City Council meeting.
Okay, thank you so much. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would love for Mr. Terry Brooks to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good job. All right, Madam Clerk, I'm going to send it to you to call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Breckus?
Here.
Dorr?
Here.
Delgado?
Here.
Weber?
Here.
Jardin?
Here.
Reese?
Here.
Sheevy?
Here.
Madam Mayor, you do have a quorum of the Reno City Council.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to send it right back to you for public comment.
Awesome. Our first item on today's agenda is A3, public comment. It should be noted for those in the audience that comments are to be addressed to the mayor and council as a whole. Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the council's agenda. Please note that the council may not take action upon any matter not agendized. When you're called on for public comment, please state your name for the record and begin speaking. The timer will begin when you say your name and you will be afforded 3 minutes. Lastly, while in this room, please be respectful. Warnings will be issued by the presiding officer if there's disruptive behavior, and you will be asked to leave chambers if the behavior continues. If you are a participant in our Zoom meeting today and would like to make general public comment, please raise your hand at this time. Our first commenter is Charles Albright, followed by Robert Avery, followed by Mark Markell.
Hello, folks. Charles Albright again. Back to speak about Ambrose Dam, hoping that you will put it on an agenda item. I know you don't own it, but it's in our river and it needs to go. So I was hoping that you could allow the board to, the commissioners, excuse me, the council here to take a vote on it at some point and also go ahead and let the fire department write a letter in support of its removal as well. Thank you very, very much for your time. Take care. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk.
Robert Avery, followed by Mark Markell, followed by Valerie Moore with the Sierra Arts Foundation.
Mark, go ahead and go.
Hello, City Council and City Manager. My name is Mark Markell. I'm a concerned Reno resident. Back in '89, I was a passenger in a drunk driving crash. And we were doing 100 and we rolled 8 times. I was ejected and the car landed on my head, putting me in a coma for a month. And the reason I tell you this is because I don't want anyone else to go through what I went through. I had trouble walking. I've had a stroke. I don't talk well. It's heck, you shouldn't have to go through. This is a mess. I'm all messed up. I can't take good care of myself. I have troubles in that field. And I don't know what to say. I come here every month for 20 years and I don't know what to say, but just don't get in the car with a drunk driver. This is what can happen, and it's not good. None. I still have 3 minutes. Well, how's it going, people?
Actually, Mark, you know what? I think we've got a different calendar. I don't know that you can see it on the TV. You got a minute You got a minute, 10.
I'm not done. I just want to be a perfect example of what can happen. Now stop. Ha ha ha. Hi. I just want to be a perfect example of what can happen. I don't want anyone else to go through what I'm through. I've been there a lot. And I don't want anyone else to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Always a great message. Thank you for always coming down and sharing that. Madam
Mark, it looks like you might have dropped something, and I don't know if it's something that you need to keep.
Oh, no, that's my trash.
Well, no worries. I just want to make sure it wasn't a receipt or something you need.
Yeah,
And thank you for the kind Christmas note. We got it in the back room. Thank you for that.
What?
The note that you sent us, it was very nice. Appreciate it.
I don't remember, but thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, people.
Terry Brooks, Valerie Moore, followed by Terry Brooks, followed by Robert Avery.
Hello, I'm Valerie Moore. I'm with the Sierra Arts Foundation today, and so I'm here to say thank you to the council and to Council Member Dewar for thinking of Sierra Arts for her resolution to take some students to the Beyond Van Gogh exhibit that's coming in August. We think it's an amazing idea. We're super excited about it. It's such a great way to show young kids that art is more than just like an oil painting on a wall. You know, it can be digital, it can be music, it can be so many different things. So we're super excited that the city of Reno thought of us again because we do so many other things with the city. And so we're just wanted to say thank you for thinking of us.
Madam Vice Mayor.
Yes.
If I may, thank you for being here, Valerie. That's fantastic. I just wanted to share with the council, my original idea was to get some kids exposed to this really unique exhibit that's coming in the fall. It's going to be here for about 6-8 weeks. But then talking to Valerie, we talked about really expanding it, and I found out that there's only a few schools in our system that actually have an arts program left. And one of those is DeMonte Ranch High School. So one of the discussion items is they're planning to reach out to the 1 or 2 teachers that are in art and to do a class on Van Gogh before they go so that they can get as much out of it as possible, and then a follow-up class after, so that it's not just, hey, we got a field trip to go see a cool thing, but that there actually is, this major learning component with it. Mm-hmm. And I just think, that's what sold me, that this would be a good idea beyond just getting exposed to Beyond Van Gogh.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here, Valerie. I'm really excited. It's an experiment, right? It's not a huge dollar amount, but we should be able to have the teachers work with at least 1 or 2 classes on this. So thanks.
Yeah, we're super excited for it. It'll
Thank
be
you.
really fun. Thank
Valerie,
you.
if you wouldn't mind connecting with me, I'd like to learn more about it,
Okay.
especially if it's happening in the fall.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you.
Madam Clerk? I believe it was Terry Brooks.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Terry Brooks, followed by Robert Avery, followed by Donna Keats.
Good morning. It's me, Terry Brooks again. And today I'd like to address social interaction in education when it comes to homelessness. When kids go to school to receive an education, a lot of what is learned is through social interaction. They get to know their teacher who teaches them every school day as to what to do and as to what to say. Their teacher wisely guides them down the right path of reading and writing and also of math. The kids are given books that they are told to read and are given other things to suit their learning need. In class, they learn a lot as how to progress, and then they play with other kids during their recess. Then after recess, they all return to class where their teacher gives them more to learn. So with their teacher, they have a lot of interaction, and with other students, they have a lot of interaction. But if kids are homeless and don't go to school, they are being deprived of a valuable learning tool. If kids don't have a teacher and don't have fellow students too, they are less likely to learn what to say and what to do. When children are of such a young age, it's the best time for them in school learning to engage. Children need to receive a good education, and a major factor of that is school interaction. With social interaction, not only do you learn, but you also get a chance to learn how to learn. I would like to thank you all for listening to me today, and I look forward to coming back when I learn what to say. Thank you.
Oh, you've learned it. You're great, Terry. Thank you for always coming down.
I'm quite flattered. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Vice Mayor, may I respond, since we're waiting for Mr. Avery, to Mr. Albright? I did go out after your last public comment here at Tumwa, and on my tour, my monthly tour, looked at the dam blockage under the current conditions, and I'll admit that I've never driven through that little pocket of unincorporated area to that park. So, thanks for bringing it to my attention. I would really encourage you to talk to Washoe County. They got the lion's share of ARPA funds that outsize us for regional needs. It's right on adjacent to an unincorporated neighborhood that they have, the park management, the neighborhood, we don't represent those. Of course, the river's regional. So I would encourage you to also be having the request of them as well.
Thank you very much.
I don't think
no,
so.
Why don't, if you'd
But
like
I'm-
to
yeah.
get with Ms. Breckus.
Yeah, I'm more than
after.
happy to talk to you about that and get on a Zoom with you about it or meet you out there. And I will be asking our manager what our fire, rescue group feels about that too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk.
It seems Mr. Avery is still not in the room, so we will transition Donna Keats over, if you'll give me just a moment.
Oh, thank you.
All right, Donna, if you would unmute, state your name for the record, and begin speaking.
See it. I'm sorry. Okay, am I muted? Am I
Yeah.
unmuted?
Yep, we can hear you.
Hi. For the record, my name is Donna Keats. Is my camera not? Well, darn it. It was a second ago. All right, so you can't see me. Many of you know who I am. I had some random thoughts about your meeting yesterday about housing. So I don't have a well thought out presentation. But several things occurred to me. One is that a lot of people, a lot of members of the public are a little disturbed. The public perception is maybe not what you would want it to be. And my comment about that is, although some time has been spent by council basically justifying it, anyway, it doesn't really matter because you've done what you've done, you've tried as hard as you can, and people still perceive that you haven't. Therefore, the reality is you haven't. So my suggestion would be to rethink your public outreach, public engagement. There are a lot of people who spoke yesterday who would like to be involved in this, who have good things to share, who are not involved. So when it goes to that, it's like I'd kind of like to know where was the table that Ms. Breckus apparently didn't engage in? Does that mean that there were tables that were not in the public meetings where discussions took place? Because the accusatory language yesterday was a little disturbing, and the time spent self-justifying was a little disturbing, and those things support the public's perception of what this council is doing. So I'm saying that as a suggestion and offering to talk to anybody who wants to know how these things work from the other side of it, from just a different point of view. Secondly, it occurs to me that there are things discussed that you can do in the short term and in the long term. Changing the zoning laws, you have the framework in the master plan. You modified Title 18 to accommodate much of this stuff. The implementation, however, is kind of failing. And I think that's, since you already have the structure legally, you don't have to spend 2 years to change zoning laws. You can get after that now, but you need an analysis about what worked, what didn't work, how many of the 1,000 homes didn't get built, and why didn't they get built? And Ms. Breckus brought up a great point about, I also want to comment that the people who did the presentations were excellent. It was very, very good. So in that, why are we looking at massive multifamily versus single housing? And why are we not also including all the townhomes that have been built? Because those smaller complexes are part of the master plan and housing diversity. and gather the data about what are the rents, what got permitted but not built, like that. You know, I think you need a little more detailed information to do a better analysis, to look at what's really happening and find the shortest route to the solution, which is probably not by changing the law, because that's going to take a long time. It's a long-term solution. Have some other random thoughts. If anybody cares, please feel free to call me. And I'm sorry I didn't organize this better, but I think you get my drift. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Donna. Madam Clerk.
Madam Vice Mayor, with that, we have no additional public comment. If Mr. Avery comes back in the room, we'll just afford him his 3 minutes since he registered.
Sounds great.
So at this point, we're moving on to item A4, approval of the agenda.
Thank you so much. And just confirming we didn't have any voicemails.
I am so sorry. My brain is still in yesterday, I guess. Thank you for the record. It should be noted that we received 13 public comments that were general in nature received before 4 p.m. yesterday. 1 in support, 1 in opposition, and 11 as letters of concern on various topics. And we'll transition to voicemails.
Hello, I am a concerned Reno, Nevada, and I've been paying taxes for over 40 years. I don't understand how we are not monitoring and riding on bicycles, police department, Reno Police Department, Sparks Department, working together as a team to make sure that they are monitoring what the homeless is doing with their other society, the underground activity that is happening, that is being okay because they are dismissing it as mental addiction. The homeless have now invaded Veterans Parkway, which I pay with my tax dollars so I can go and ride my bike, as so do other residents, where now there is a homeless community living on top of Veterans Parkway path. They have already taken over the downtown path in certain sections in which we do not have patrol from Reno Police Department nor the Sparks Police Department in a team effort to make sure that they are managed. The police are there to protect and to serve, not to sit on the freeway and the highway or the byways and hand out tickets. I hope you guys can come to a resolution. I hear that there is someone to talk to in regards to the homeless and the efforts that are being made. I have been homeless when I was young. I know that there's mental illness, but I also know there is a whole new generation who call themselves homesteaders, and they're not being held accountable because they think if they shut up shop and no one moves them, they are allowed to stay there as a tenant, and that they are given tenant privileges by the city of Reno and the city of Sparks. Unacceptable. I don't understand the chaos that's happening. I do not understand this idiocracy that is happening. It is a simple solution of monitoring so it does not get out of control. It cost over $2 million for cleanup along the river last year because of the biohazard and because of the waste that we allowed our homeless to do. And that was with the efforts of cleanup by city residences. Unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And I will continue until somebody starts doing something for our city. Instead of just throwing their hands up and saying that they're homeless and
Yes, I'm calling about the elaborate plan that is being put in place for the Audie Boulevard Wells Avenue project. I hope with all the expense and effort and planning that's been put into this project that a plan has also been put in place a strong, firm plan to eliminate the trash, the garbage, the vagrants that are hanging out in the area who contribute to the appearance of the area. And by that I mean the trash from the vagrants hanging out, the wrapping papers, the food scraps that are thrown on the ground, the clothing that's discarded in the streets, the shopping carts that are loaded, the people laying around, sleeping, whatever, you know the scenario. So again, I hope that the council and the city planners have put into place a very firm plan to get rid of all that. Otherwise, the effort along the Audi Boulevard, Wells Avenue, Sparks, Reno corridor is just going to be of no avail. It is going to look as pathetic as it has been the past years. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, is there any further public comment?
There's no additional public comment.
Thank you so much. We will move into the approval of the agenda. Manager Thornley, do we have any items in which to modify or pull?
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. We don't have any items that need to be pulled or modified. However, I do want to advise the body that the consultant on item D2 is available during a window from 10 o'clock to noon. And so if we get on about noontime, we need to maybe move that one up.
Okay,
Thank you.
very good. With that information, I've got a motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, did we have any public comment on the agenda? Item? No.
Sorry, we have none.
Thank you very much. Consent agenda, do any, I almost said commissioners, do any council members have any items they would wish to pull for discussion? I'm going to start with Councilwoman Weber. Okay, Councilwoman Dewar.
B12.
Thank you very much. Councilman Delgado.
18, 19,
What was it? Say it again.
18 and 19, B18, B19.
Thank you very much. Yeah, sorry, I'm staring at you instead of saying your name. My apologies. Councilmember Breckus.
B4, B8, B10, B13.
Okay. So just to confirm, we have Councilwoman Weber has nothing, Councilwoman Dewar has B12, Councilman Delgado has B18 and 19, and Councilwoman Breckus has B4, 8, 10, and I'm sorry, say the last one?
13.
B13. Thank you very much. May I get a motion for the remainder of the items?
Sorry, Madam Vice Mayor, can I
Yes.
just state for the record, we did receive public comment for one item for B14, one letter of opposition. Additionally, we received one letter of opposition for B15.
Thank you so much. May I get a motion for the remaining items? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Okay, we're going to move in. I'm just going to go down the line rather than trying to jump around on the numbers. Let's go to Councilwoman Dewar, B12.
Sure. If staff could just come up. This is a $3.4 million, what I consider a great project, but if you could just give us a snapshot, it'd be great.
Before we start, Madam Presiding Officer, B13 is very companion, so could we open that at the same time?
Sure.
Okay.
So we will open 12 and 13 at the same time.
Sure.
For the record, John Simpson, Senior Civil Engineer and Capital Projects. Councilwoman Dewar, I do have a brief presentation that can kind of highlight some of our street projects, if that's okay. Looks like we got it up. So today at council, we have a number of street projects that are here for council award. Today, we have a great investment in these neighborhoods that is occurring. So if you see on the screen there, we have $16 million of investment that we're doing in our neighborhood streets. That's at council today. As you can see, the slide's kind of messy there, but a lot of times you think of our street projects and you see that we think brand new paved roadways, but this investment goes well beyond the roadways. We have about 44% of our funds that are going to go to the roadway improvements, so about $7 million. However, if you look on the screen up there, we have $3.2 million in pedestrian improvements. So 4 miles of sidewalk and over 100 ped ramps that we're installing with this project. We're also doing infrastructure, so sewer and storm drain infrastructure that's going to be included in these projects. As you know, the city rotates clockwise throughout the city to 3 different areas within the city to make sure that we're taking care of streets across the city. This year, the projects are in the southwest area. We will follow in the northwest Verdi Stead area in 23 and the the northeast southeast in 2024. This year's street units in the southwest were brought to council and confirmed in July of 2020. Here's a list of our street units that we have this year. 3 of those, Swope, Humboldt North, and Humboldt South, are on agenda today at council. Just as a highlight, this year we did extensive outreach with the public. So not only do we attend the Reno Access Advisory Committee and the neighborhood NABs, but we've reached out individually to property owners to speak with them on the improvements that are going to occur in the neighborhoods. I'd like to thank Councilwoman Breckus and Councilwoman Dewar for attending our public outreach meetings and participating in those, which was very helpful. Just a quick overview of the Swope area or the Swope project. This is just north of Mayberry Drive, kind of encompassing around Swope Middle School. This is the item that you pulled today. This project is mostly streets, curb and gutter and sidewalk. That's an improvement for this project in this area. Granite Construction was our low bidder on this project. The second area I'd like to highlight is the Humboldt North area. As you can see, this project is just south of California between Arlington and Plum. We have about a mile of roadway that's going to be replaced on this project. This project also has a sewer component, which you can see some of that impacts the alleyways, so we have alleyway improvements also in this neighborhood. And the final neighborhood that we have is the Humboldt South area. As you can see on the slide, this area was a little more difficult than some of our other areas because we are missing sidewalk in this neighborhood. And so in order to comply with our federal regulations and doing some and meet those standards, we have proposed to install a sidewalk, a ADA pedestrian route within the neighborhood. And we have worked extensively with the RAC and the community members to establish these locations. This project was approximately $6.4 million, and Sierra Nevada Construction was our low contractor for this. The staff is recommending that we award all 3 of these street units, and we're just excited to do some improvements in these neighborhoods. So with that, I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much. So you, in this presentation, we opened B12 and, B12 and B13 at the same time. Did this presentation cover B13 as well?
So I can give you a quick highlight on B13. So B13 is a agreement with Washoe County Schools. Washoe County Schools is doing some improvements to the Swope Middle School currently right now. And as part of those improvements, they're required to do some sidewalk and crosswalk improvements. So with those things incorporated in our street unit, it made sense that our construction contractor can take care of those things, and Washoe County can reimburse us for those costs. And so that's what that agreement is.
Yeah, and maybe.
Fantastic. One moment, let me go to Councilwoman Dewar, and then we'll go to Councilwoman Breckes.
Okay, we're on the map.
Well, he'll come right back.
Yeah, well, we're going to come back to it.
So and thank you, I did mean to pull the other two as well. Obviously, they're much bigger dollars, but I'm so glad you did the full presentation. You did a great job. And the reason I pulled this, and I should have pulled the others, is that this is where our city meets our people, right? You're in their face, you're in their driveway, you're on their street. This is where they see us in action. And I'm so appreciative. I mean, they need to know what we're doing with their tax dollars. I mean, this is, I think you said, around $20 million if I got.
This is $16 million that we're looking for these neighborhoods, yes.
16, okay. So, I mean, it's a big expenditure of our capital improvement fund for the city in general. So I thank you for highlighting it. Again, I just think it's really important people understand what we're doing. I do have an ask also. And I know you would do it because you did it already, but this area too has a lot of trees. And I just ask that you continue to do the great job you did already when you were doing Southwest Reno area streets, Old Southwest, where you worked with the urban forester and and I'm just going to remind this council, and if you knew or didn't know, when the project was originally bid, and I think it was Q&D on that one, they said they were going to have to take out 100 trees in that area in Old Southwest to do the sidewalk, put in sidewalks where there were none, replace them where there were cracked, do the street improvements. And when our urban forester worked with them, they got it down to 30. And then by working further during the construction with root pruning and innovative sidewalk methods, they got it down to 6. So when we hear people say, oh, we've got to cut all the trees down to do this important project, this is not actually so. With some creativity and ingenuity, we can save a lot of big mature trees. They're the ones that are giving us our greatest bang for the buck as compared to a little tree. I mean, exponentially greater benefits. So I just want to thank you for what you've already done, remind you of it, and encourage you to continue that close work with our Parks Department and our urban forester to make that happen on these streets too, which also have some great housing. I mean, some great trees, housing too. So thank you.
Thank you for that comment, Councilwoman Dewar. Just so you know, we have already met with urban forester and we've walked the project multiple times, and we have met with property owners individually to talk about trees. We have done everything to our extent possible to save the trees on this project.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Councilwoman Breckes.
Thank you. So I did get an email from a constituent back on February 11th, and she expressed concern about this effort, and I had planned to go out and tour it, and then this showed up on the agenda. So the Keel Drive section, and I was a Swope mom and used to participate in that drill when my daughter missed the bus back when we had good busing. But the Keel Drive at I guess you're going to put a flashing beacon right there, that mid-block crossing?
That is correct.
Okay, a Keel Drive. And then the Vaughan Way and Keel and the Trentham will also continue those crosswalks.
There will be crosswalks in the back of the school also that will be installed with the project.
Okay,
yes.
okay. Have you given any consideration through the whole duration of the Keel Drive length adjacent to the school of putting like a little pedestrian block so it does funnel students? Do you have enough walk-in conflict that way?
So the sidewalks that are going to be installed on the Keel Drive side closest to the school are going to be widened to 5 feet wide to accommodate the students that are in there. At the crosswalk itself, I'm not sure if you're asking about narrowing the roadway down at that location for the crosswalk. Maybe you can.
Yeah, a lot of times when you have conflict, and you're the engineer, is you'll put like a little pony fence, along an area so that you prevent the mid-block crossings, where you want. And I was just wondering if you looked at that scenario. Are you cutting into the curb on that side?
We are doing some improvements to that side of the street, but we weren't planning to do any walls or anything that would block
Fencing.
students from crossing in the middle of
Okay,
this
okay.
location. Currently, the crosswalk there does not exist, and it's directly in
You're
front of
gonna-
the school.
Yeah.
So we hope that this will improve that location so that students will find that as the best crossing point.
Okay, okay. And this constituent is fine with the improvements for the beacons being on her side of the street. I don't know if you've been in touch with her. I can send you on that.
That'd be great. I think we've spoken with property owners right
Okay.
there, and so, but I
Okay.
will reach out to her again.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, any other council members have any questions or comments?
Just really quickly. The one area that I know I've met with Flansburgh, I think even with Carrie on this one, is Ferris. Is Ferris?
Oh, Ferris?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know, obviously it's not included in here, but, I mean, it's been something we've like met on several times, and it's very, very narrow. Those kids walk up that. It really should be about 15. And not to mention when it snows, like literally people will just come right down off of that massive slope. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
I believe I know the location you're talking about. I can meet with our Public Works Director and speak with him on that. I'm not familiar with any conversations that you had, but I will meet with him and find out a little bit more about that location and see if there's needs for improvement there.
I mean, I think it should be 15. It's 25 now, but there's nowhere for those kids to walk. It's really, really dangerous. So if you could just put it on the radar, because I've tried.
Madam Mayor, if I may, I spoke with Director Flansburgh, and he spoke with the traffic engineer, and we've pulled up the most recent traffic study for Ferris and that hill in particular, and we're working through the process of what it looks like to reduce the speed limit to 15 there.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Okay, may I get a motion on B12?
Yep, I will move to accept B12.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. May I get a motion on B13?
Move to approve.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. City Attorney's Office, Madam Mayor would like to pull B20. Do we need to reopen the item so that she may pull that? Okay, make a motion to reopen our consent items.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Madam Mayor, you would like to pull B20.
Thank you. This is really exciting. I know that our Arts and Culture Committee has worked really hard on it. I wonder, Megan, will you please come up and do the honors? Because I think, I know Councilwoman Dewar for a long time has pushed to make the parking garage beautified. And I know you guys, so I really wanted you to show the council what you've been working on so everyone can get excited.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, City Council. Megan Berner, Arts and Culture Manager for the record. I have a little presentation here for you. This is the item for approval of an agreement to commission artist Charlie Malpass to paint a mural on the City Hall parking garage. This project was identified by Arts and Culture Commission and Council as an ideal space to place artwork. It's highlighting our City Hall and City Plaza area. And the idea was to create a landmark in downtown next to our City Plaza that showcases the river and some of our wonderful amenities down here. So the call for artists went out on October 22nd, 2021, and we received 35 submissions from artists all over the country. The Public Art Committee reviewed those submissions at their meeting on January 10th, and they do a very thorough review to select artists for qualifications. They also look at aesthetics, how the design relates to the surrounding area. And so they ended up selecting an artist that had a proposal that they felt really highlighted the local flora, fauna, and area. Submissions were also sent to council for feedback, and we received feedback from one council member whose selections were right in line with what the Public Art Committee selected, which was wonderful. And so this went to the Arts Commission on January 24th, and they are forwarding the Public Art Committee's recommendation to council. And with your approval, this project will be completed in May of this year. So it'll be ready for the U.S. Conference of Mayors conference that's coming to Reno in June. And this is an updated proposal from what you saw in your staff report. This addresses some of the feedback that the commission had for the artist and our council on the design. So this design, you have the bluebirds wrapping into the alley, so it'll be visible from that area, which is probably the most accessible space for the mural, where people might want to take photographs and interact with it. And then the rest of it, I'm going to show you this other view so you can see more of the design. Has some stylized flora, sagebrush and things like that. So she's also, this is a really cool thing, she's going to be using a special paint for this that is actually recycled. And it's coming from material that's been discarded, nice cream of the crop. They go through this. There's this company in Sacramento that actually does this, and a lot of the paint comes from here in Reno. And what they do is they filter the paint, and then they add additional UV protection, water sealant color to it, and create these paints especially for artists to use. And so if you have more questions about that, I can talk about that, but it's really great. Think about all the gallons that we're essentially taking out of the trash and using to create this artwork. So that.
Thank you so much, Madam
Yeah.
Mayor.
Great. I think it looks amazing, and I want to say thank you to Councilwoman
Bet.
Dewar for all your hard work. This is
I
really
know.
your baby and initiative.
Okay, I'm going to say a few words if I may.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, well, first of all, this garage, we all know, has been a lifetime project. I helped purchase it back in 2015, negotiated with our neighbor, Calneva. We got it for $10, just to remind council. And since then, the staff's been amazing, fixing the elevators, painting the inside, replacing the lights, renumbering the floors so that it was less confusing. Widening the spaces. I mean, made it a livable space that we weren't afraid, no one was afraid to go in, and giving preferential parking on the second floor to our customers, which are our city residents. And setting up gates so that it was more controlled space. So the last piece, one of the last pieces was to put a coating on it. It's been pink, which speaks Calneva for a very long time. And, my original concept was just please just paint it, something that related to our building and our logo and that kind of stuff. But when serving on the Arts and Culture Commission for the last 7 years, we realized we could do this amazing mural project. So I have, over the years, donated a fair amount of council funds to help offset this. You're not seeing them all in one time. But I think my last donation, anyway, I think it's up to about 20 grand of the 70 grand I've been able to, over a period of years, donate to you to aggregate. I did review all of the projects, all 35. I completely agree with the Arts and Culture Commission. I also had a second favorite one, which also had birds in it and was very cool as well. It was a little brighter. This is a little more muted tone, which on reflection I think is actually better for the space. And I wanted to, if you could just show the picture one more time, Megan.
Sure.
I just wanted to say, or to the one you just had, yeah. Some of the things at the Arts and Culture Commission that we discussed, it was my last Arts and Culture Commission, before I handed the baton to the mayor, and was that some of the leaves that she had used were actually more like Florida fauna or vegetation, so it was more palmish. And so I had suggested that they go back, actually look at what we have here, make it more relevant to our native vegetation. She had not created a side piece, which is the most visible, where you come across the walkway into the garage. So that side is supposed to have art, but she hadn't submitted it, or on this corner. So I'm so happy to see her add the bluebirds, which, we have become famous in this area. This is the Nevada state bird. So it's a very cool thing. So I thank you for allowing me to speak, and thank you, Megan, for bringing this project in for landing. I can't wait for the painting to begin. And thank you, Mayor, for pulling it. I was just going to let it roll, but since you pulled it.
I wanted everyone to see what you had selected and all the hard work you guys put into it.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be very cool.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to say thank you so much as well, because I think you gave us history. You gave me history.
Oh, good.
And I think thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Fantastic.
The hard work.
Councilmember Reese.
Thank you. Ms. Berner, I just want to say thank you for the work you continue to do. It is, I think, oftentimes it's easy in the rush of maybe the larger things that we do as a city to think less about the things that are very impactful and meaningful every day. And you are very good at helping to remind us that art is beautiful, art should be everywhere, that we need more art. And so I just want to say thank you to you specifically You don't generally, well, actually, I think you never really ask for the applause, but we need to give it to you because I think it is important. I have followed your own personal artistic journey. I watch the things that you do, and that's meaningful to me. And I know that it's meaningful to our citizens. So I think it's important not just to acknowledge this beautiful art, and it does look very stunning, and I will be very excited to see it being painted, but just for the work that you do every day, know that we know that you're doing it. We see you. We know that the things that are happening happen because of the work you do, and very appreciative for you for that reason. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Madam Mayor, for always being such a great advocate for the arts in our community, and this project included. Our garage is even before this so beautiful. There was a bunny rabbit this morning when I pulled in our parking garage. I got
Wow.
pictures and video of it. So I must have known this was coming.
One more thing, because I want the public to know, Councilwoman Dewar, you started taking this on in
2015?
2015, okay, yeah, 2015. I just want people to know, because it made it sound like we just started to work.
Oh,
on
no,
it.
no, we,
Yeah, so anyway, it's been a long labor of love.
yeah, but we negotiated in 2015 February. And so it's brought us, what are we at, 7 years or going on 8? But yeah, but I think it's the same way we did Virginia Lake. So sometimes you can't just solve everything in one step, right? We have to get the fundings. We've gone through tough times. And I think sometimes this is a good example. Virginia Lake's a good example where piece by piece, little piece by little piece, when we gather the funds, we can make a step in the right direction. A lot of it you can't even see with structural improvements that none of us will ever see, but we're grateful that the garage is in good stead. So thank you, Mayor.
It's
Appreciate
fantastic.
it.
Madam Mayor, may I get a
All
motion?
right, I will. Vice Mayor, I would like a motion to approve.
I have a motion.
A second.
And a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries unanimously. Great work. Thank you so
Awesome.
much. Okay, Madam Mayor, we are to Councilmember Delgado pulled 18 and 19.
Perfect.
And then Councilwoman Breckus has 4, 8, and 10 remaining.
All right, thank you. Councilman Delgado, it's all you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is more of I believe, a good opportunity, as yesterday was shared by many, that we don't talk about the work we do with relation to housing. This is on today's agenda. If you could speak to both 18 and 19, Monica, in terms of how we're able to keep housing in place now. What's on our agenda, I didn't want it just to fly by. Monica, please.
Okay, Monica Cochran for the record. Both of these items are requesting support by the council for a volume cap that was requested from 2 different developers for some affordable housing units. One is a new complex, one is an acquisition rehab. This will extend the older project for an additional 30 years, and the new project will also be affordable for 30 years. One is, I believe, 132 units. That is the Dakota Crest and Carriage Stone. And I'm trying to read this without glasses because these ones don't really work, so I apologize. And the other one is 250 new units. One is multifamily, one is senior housing. And, 2 are multifamily and 1 is senior housing. I do also have the Eric Novak from Praxis on the call if there are detailed questions about the financing of these. These, as you know, the Department of Business and Industry is the designee for issuing tax-exempt bonds in the state of Nevada. And when developers go to that division to request the volume cap, it is a requirement that the local jurisdiction support those efforts. From time to time, because the city also gets volume cap designated to us to put towards projects, we will then turn that over to an affordable housing complex. We don't have our allocation yet. So for these 2 projects, we're just supporting resolutions of support for new units and preserving some existing units, which is in alliance with the great work we did yesterday.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to highlight, I didn't want it to go without notice, especially after conversations yesterday. We're doing as much as we can. Here's an opportunity where we're able to keep existing currently and keep it in play and affordable. And working with some current land that I believe would do some good work with B19. I've spoken to the developers, I've spoken to some of our team. I know they were going to do a lot of outreach with the current neighbors in the multi-housing adjacent to that, but it's all good things coming down the pipeline, and here's a tool that we're utilizing. So thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Monica.
All right.
Thank you.
Councilman Breckes.
Yeah, thank you for pulling these, Mr. Delgado. I did have questions when I went through my briefing with the manager. And about B18, Dakota Crest came on when? 1999, 2000?
I don't have the exact year that came on, but again, I have Eric Novak on the phone.
Yeah,
and he
let me
can
just
speak.
ask my questions.
Okay.
I think it came on around 2000, maybe 1999. The other one came on around 2005, maybe 2006. And the question for these is, why weren't they in longer affordability periods? And then also, the cost per unit were maybe 55,000 a unit on one of these was the AC rehab. And how much is AC and how much is rehab? And is there an amount, how is the threshold of how these are sold examined? What if they're overpaying for these?
I'm going to defer to Eric to
Okay.
answer those questions, and we
Can
can bring
he-
him on.
Okay, can he hear? Maybe not.
Hi, sorry, this is Eric Novak. I've been listening, so yes. So these Dakota Crest and Carriage Stone were offered for sale, and USA Properties is partnering with one of the existing owners, which is CSADC, to purchase the properties. And I think this is an opportunity to keep them in the hands of good stewards. We've lost a number of affordable housing properties to owners who intend to take those properties market rate. You're right, Councilman Breckes, that these projects still have some affordability period left on them, so that there's typically a 30-year affordability, so that one would have 10 years, the other would have 15 years. What's being done is they're resetting the clock, so it's another 30 years with the new owner, and they're investing a significant amount of money to improve the property. So it's and the developer is available to talk through the scope of work, but it's about $45,000 a unit, not including contingency in hard cost improvements to Dakota Crest.
Well, okay, thank you. Yeah, I know we've lost a lot. I'm just wondering, of that 55, how much is going toward AC and how much is going toward rehab? And is there a parameter under the guidelines that you have to buy at certain appraised value, or how does that work?
And unfortunately, it's controlled by the market, and so it's sort of the to the highest buyer. And so we're really struggling to steer, as these projects come on the market, to steer them to good stewards that are going to maintain them, invest in them, maintain them as affordable housing. But no, there's no guidance from the housing division on how much you can spend on how much per unit an existing affordable housing owner can offer their housing for.
Okay, but even if they sold it to someone else who is a higher bidder, they'd still have to be stuck with those. They'd still have those years of affordability on the clock, right?
Right, whatever's remaining on that.
Okay.
So another property just changed hands. It's in year, I think year 22, and that owner has made it clear that they intend to bring in market rate when it hits year 30.
Okay, thank
So
you.
that's an example of what we're trying to prevent.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Delgado, you want to give us a motion?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, move to approve B18 and B19. Can we take them as one?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right.
Thank you.
Back to item, Ward 1, B4.
Oh, before? Yeah, this is the issuance of a large amount of debt, and I had some questions. Well, first of all, can we get a staff report on it?
Madam Clerk, we move over Director Lochner.
Hi, good morning, council. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. I do have a presentation I will share with you. So let me get there. And I'm gonna go. Okay. So what I have for you is a resolution. We did this back in December, a resolution directing the city clerk to notify the Debt Management Commission that we are proposing to issue general obligation bonds. When the bids came in, the projects were much more expensive. As you're aware, we have supply chain issues and staff shortages, in the industry. So the projects came in much more expensive than we had expected. We have looked at several scenarios and really looked at this as our best option was to issue bonds. So instead of the $38.5 million, we're actually going for $60 million to complete these projects. And so that's our proposal, is to take this to the DMC. What I wanted to show the council really is that we have run some numbers. We've looked at industry standards, and with a $60 million bond, we are still well within the industry standards for this bond. So, and then we benefit because we get our public safety center and the aquatic center at Moana Springs. The community gets to have these public amenities that have been long needed in our city. And the world benefits because we're including some sustainability items within the projects. So staff recommends that council adopts the resolution. And I don't know how to keep sharing.
All right. Is that it?
Yeah.
That's my report.
Okay, perfect.
Now, if the council decides to go in a different path, are the ARPA funds available for these projects?
I believe ARPA funds would qualify for the Moana Springs project. I'm not sure about the public safety project.
Okay. Have you done that analysis, though?
I haven't really looked at the public safety center project. Looking at the ARPA, just the overall goals of ARPA, I do not believe that the public safety center would be our best investment of ARPA funds in order to really meet the terms of what the federal government is trying to do with those funds.
Is this a 5/7 vote?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Here's something, and I did talk to the manager, but it was a weekend holiday and a long council meeting yesterday, so information didn't come forward that I had asked. But your first slide showed that this puts us of $130 million of GO debt. Is that right?
I'd have to go look at the numbers, but that'd be close. I mean, I have a chart that shows Reno, the city, as well as redevelopment agency debt that I could show.
Well, you brought up the slide showed, and you said industry standards, which, I'm not, and I defer to you, but I really question what industry standards are among states and cities with very different tax frameworks, but maybe that's just some.
So this is research that has been done by the GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association. They look nationwide. They do significant research, and this is the information that comes from that research. And we went out and did some of our own research as well. And so that is where the industry standards come from, is from the Government Finance Officers Association.
Okay. So what I was asking for is a history of our debt on the GO. And obviously the GO is touched by other debt. We know that. It's touched by the revenue-backed GO bonds, right? The $3 million. Does anyone else have any other oh, I got 27 more seconds. So I opened up the CAFR that you have on the website and show in June of 2013, we had $120 million of general obligation debt outstanding subject to the legal debt margin. Is that a comparison then, apples to apples?
So what I look at is I'm looking at our total debt picture, which includes retrack and the sewer bonds and all the redevelopment and everything. I haven't pulled out the general obligation specifically. I can do that for you and pull out the history that's just general obligation if you would like me to do that.
Because I'm saying.
Thank you. Okay, Councilwoman Jordan, Vice
Thank you.
Mayor.
Thank you very much. I'm prepared to make a motion.
I have additional questions and would like to ask those.
Okay, any other questions for Deborah? No? Go ahead, Councilman Reese.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ms. Lochner, I think we all are aware that there have been some increases in prices and materials for all the projects. So it's not something unique to Reno. At the end of the day, this body has made a commitment to build the Moana Pool project. We've also made a commitment to build the Public Safety Center, and we have implicitly rejected the Ward 1 members' insistence that we do pay-go or spend the ARPA dollars to do it. So I appreciate your willingness to continue exploring and turning over the issues. At the end of the day, your decision, or actually I'll say it this way, the decision of this body has been made. And so at this point in time, the insistence on relitigating the same issue every time, is, I think, trying at best. But also I would say, the use of debt in any government body is a difficult one because no government particularly likes the concept of debt. But in your opinion, is this the right time to use this kind of a financing instrument and also the kind of project for which debt is acceptable in government, sort of, we'll say the government world?
That's a multifaceted question, but yes, debt is an instrument that the governments do use to take on large capital projects. We don't have the cash resources to take on the large capital projects. These two particular projects have grant funding, and we need to finish the projects in order to maintain those grants. And those are pretty large grants. So we are, as with anything, even in your own personal home, you consider taking on debt that would also increase your the values of your assets, and you want to make sure that we're continuing to build the infrastructure that we need, and we will not always have the cash resources to do that. So if you do take on debt and you do it deliberately by making sure that everything looks good, that you continue to pay down your debt, that you're not in default, that as long as you're managing your debt structure appropriately, it is appropriate to take on debt for large capital projects.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Ward 1.
Thank you. The project has grown, the debt commitment has grown. So I think it's a fair game and a fair question. There's new grant monies available that I think match grant with grant and is responsible. It pains me. I came on in 2011. I ran to replace Moana Pool because it had served this city for 3 generations and was allowed to fall apart. And it wasn't within our grasp. But from what I see, in 2013, when the senior members here were on, is we were at 130 million of general obligation debt. Or excuse me, let me see. We were at 120 million of general obligation debt. What I see now is $130 million of general obligation debt. Now, yes, in that time period, the revenues have grown, but so has the staffing. And just this year, how many positions have been added this budget year? Ms. Lochner?
I can't recall off the top of my head. It was over 30.
Over 30. And what did we just give to the unrepresented in contract escalations? 2.5%?
Yes, ma'am.
2.5%. I am really pleading with the council to go in a different direction on this and to use those ARPA funds to preserve the organization for the out years, because we are growing in our staffing levels. We are growing in our obligations to the staff, and we're increasing the general obligation debt, and we haven't looked at it in totality. It's okay to say industry standards, but what an underwriter in New York City will do and grade a bond is a lot different than the realities of the budgetary decisions here week in and week out. It really, really is. And we have the windfall to make this prudent decision and not leave the next council members who come on with the debt and their hands hindered. And I think that is the most responsible thing to advance these projects at this time. So if the council wants to go that direction, I don't think it's good. I don't think it's great for the organization, and it would be very unfortunate.
All right. Ms. Lochner, let me just ask you, I always like to know what the FAB is thinking, for one, and then also I would like you to weigh in, because I know this is what you do day in, day out. You're incredible at your job. You have really gotten us to a point where I think financially we're really seeing, a broader horizon on the front. So can you speak to that, please?
So the Financial Advisory Board has supported the issuance of this bond. They recognize the fact that debt is a mechanism that we can use to bring on our large capital projects, and these are important projects for the community. When I first started with this city and our debt position where we were in 2018, I probably would not have recommended a bond, because we had some bonds out there that had really bad structures that were not getting paid. We've restructured those, and we actually are in a much better position than we were 4 years ago. And with that work, we've allowed for the flexibility to be able to issue another bond.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Councilwoman Jordan.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for the dialogue on this, and thank you, Ms. Lochner, for all of your work and all of staff's work on this. I, too, was, when it was said that we were the senior council members, that makes me chuckle, but we were in coming on in 2013, and I recall distinctly the conditions of which we were in and the great work that this council did in being very fiscally responsible and paying down tremendous amounts of debt for years and years. And we also, during that time, though, we have listened to our community about the things that they want to see for their future and their children's future and their children's future. And I think we have been very prudent and thoughtful, and this is the mechanism by which we can achieve those things that we hear with the volume of emails every day with regards to the importance of public safety, the importance of having recreational facilities that everybody can get into. If we get another email about not having a swim lane, my goodness, and that's so critically important to everybody. And so I wholeheartedly support this. We could sit here and talk about not having every dime available to do all the things we want to do. And guess what, folks? We're never going to get there if we don't take the plunge, pun intended, and issue these bonds and get these facilities open so people can begin enjoying them. So I support this, and Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve.
All right, thank you. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries.
And Madam Mayor, I have a question follow-up. Just for our manager, I know we can't use ARPA to pay debt, but can we pay off a piece of the planning as a separate item using ARPA dollars for any of these projects before we incur the debt?
So I think I would reiterate what Ms. Lochner had to say earlier. The pool is a project that's probably eligible for use of some ARPA funds. The Public Safety Center is probably not.
Okay.
And so there's sort of myriad ways in which we can approach it, but I do believe in consulting with Director Lochner that this is the most prudent path.
Yeah.
And that while it is an opportunity for the council to make a decision on, where the relative opportunity costs will be borne, I believe we can do a lot more good with the ARPA in the buckets that have been previously identified by the council.
Very good. And also, just a comment that I didn't want to put in before the vote, but back in 2018, I want to say, I did a pretty thorough study of our debt. And I was on the Finance Committee Advisory Board at that time. I was the liaison. And I met with Ms. Lochner a number of times. And it turned out that from the height of our indebtedness, which was around, I want to say 2008-9, to that point, which was about 10 years later, as I recall, Ms. Lochner, we had paid down about 200 million, roughly. It might have been 180, but it was right in that bucket. I don't know if you recall, but I recall all our meetings, and I recall looking at all the graphs. And so here you go. There you go. So, and I can't read that well, but what is the far left date?
So this goes from 2010 to 2022.
There you go. So I recall that, and what is the delta roughly?
So if you look at 2010, we had $627 million in bonded debt. Our lowest amount was in 2017 at 469, and then we did the retrack refunding, which required some restructuring that actually bumped the debt up a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we've been paying it down since. So in
So
2021,
go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
we took on the state revolving loan fund, those bonds for the Reno Steads, the expansion of the water reclamation facility.
Yeah.
And then again, we paid off about $18 million of sewer bonds.
Okay.
So we've done a pretty good job of getting that trajectory down from 627 million down to 486. We take on $90 million. That puts us back into around the range of where we were in 2014.
Yeah. And I remember your chart only goes back to 2010, but I remember looking back to 2008-9. Remember, I was looking back a decade, and I remember it being even a higher number than 627. But maybe that was the height of the indebtedness. But I recall it being more like 800, in that range. So I think we've done a good job. So thank you.
All right. Just really quickly, I'm going to ask our city manager 2 questions for you. This is very common for cities because some people watching, they don't really know. This is a very common practice for cities. And then the other thing I just want you to reiterate to the public, will you state what these bonds will be funding?
Of course. So I'm going to take those in reverse order. So this bond package will fund construction of the Moana Springs Aquatic Center and the Public Safety Center, the old RGJ building. It is common for governments to use and leverage debt, and I think actually the chart that Director Lochner just had up on the screen is instructive. I think that this body has been exceptionally responsible in their debt management, and because of the leadership shown by this body and the hard decisions that were made, a decade, 7, 8 years ago, you are now able to take advantage of relatively low lending rates, and you're able to move the community forward because you were so responsible in your debt management practices.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I just want to say thank you to this council for supporting our police and our pool. Really appreciate all of you who support it. Thank you. Okay. That being said, anything else? Nope. Okay. Madam Clerk, sending it back to you.
All right, Madam Mayor, we're moving on to item B8, as pulled by Councilmember Breckus.
Can we get a staff report on this? Mr. Dietrich, is this you?
No, this is Mr. Michelle, if he's on the line.
Oh, is he? I don't see him.
We're moving him over right now.
Okay.
B10?
We're looking at B8, Mr. Flansburgh, it's the RIF agreement. Oh.
No,
well-
we're moving him over right now.
Oh, we've got him on the line. Thank you.
All righty.
Well, in the interest of time, Councilmember Breckus, if it's all right with you, could we move to B10 while we locate Mr. Michelle?
I guess.
Thank you.
Like, depends, I don't know what time it is.
Hi, do you have a staff report on this?
I do. Would you mind pulling up the presentation, City Clerk? Perfect. Good morning. For the record, Kurt Dietrich, traffic engineer. So the title slide is pretty much an overview of the existing crossing at the Silver Lake Road, grade crossing with Union Pacific. As you can see, it's a simple cantilever design with currently no gates and no pedestrian connectivity. So in your packet, we do have an area map of the location, and if you notice, it's right up adjacent to a traffic signal at Silver Lake instead, which I'll discuss very shortly. And more importantly, it's adjacent to Stead Elementary and O'Brien Middle School. So going into the program itself, this is part of the FHWA Section 130 program. So this railroad highway crossing program provides federal funding to the state level to provide for the elimination of hazards at railroad crossings. So NDOT currently receives approximately $1.2 million per year for this program. And this particular crossing at Silver Lake, the construction is estimated about $1.5 to $2 million. So in this case, there's some excess state funds that they're applying to this crossing. This particular crossing construction estimate is actually quite higher than the per year program that they get through the federal funding. As far as project selections go, they're based on the Nevada Hazard Index model. So unfortunately, in 2011, there was a serious crash on US 95, which was Amtrak versus a dump truck trailer, and which resulted in fatalities. So that particular grade crossing on US 95 didn't have a crash rate associated to it. So there was nothing tying it to crashes. So NDOT actually developed a inventory system that's based on hazards of the location, not necessarily crash rates. So that having been said, Silver Lake Road actually ranked 17 of 284 statewide crossings for safety improvement prioritization. So the key safety improvements for this specific project, as I mentioned before with the title slide, is sidewalk connectivity and access improvements, which includes ProAg and ADA. And also, as you notice, it was a simpler cantilever design, the addition of crossing gates. Also, more importantly, there is a traffic signal located at Stead and Silver Lake that does not have heavy rail preemption. So when you don't have heavy rail preemption, what could possibly happen is you could have vehicle queues stacking up for the eastbound direction at Silver Lake instead that could potentially back up into the railroad crossing. So if there's nowhere for the traffic can go and the gates come down, you can actually have a vehicle trapped on the crossing. So the preemption circuit allows a green for the eastbound direction so you can flush that queue to clear the crossing before the gates come down and the arrival of the train. And then with all the improvements, you would have the associated drainage improvements. When you expand the improvements to include sidewalks, you would have to extend the culvert, et cetera, to provide for those improvements associated with the construction of the safety improvements. So that having been said, staff recommends approval of the interlocal agreement.
May I speak?
Go ahead.
That was a great presentation. Thank you very much. When was that analysis done on the different hazard crossings in the state?
The hazard index was actually created in 2017 in response to the 2011 crash.
Okay. So when I came on in 2012, I spent a considerable amount of time on all the crossings within Ward 1. I had some concerns that were raised to me and understood, efforts up in the North Valleys and other places. And And so that really was not successful in getting anywhere, and looked at horn blows and all that. And so when this came up, I was wondering why this became a priority, particularly as the white fur crossing has increased so much through our industrial development and other development, between US 40 and the white fur area and the river, over there. Patagonia has a daycare there now and other facilities. So, what are all of our crossings in that 284 list?
I believe so. As far as the rail crossings in Reno, there are 3 crossings that actually precede this one as well.
Oh, well, which ones are those?
Sure.
Yeah, because that's what my question was, is I spent a lot of time on what I thought were dangerous crossings 6 years ago, didn't get anywhere on it. And now this one comes up, and I don't begrudge anything. It looks like a very serious one. But what are the 3 that are above this one?
Oh, sure, absolutely. So it's Lear Boulevard as well as 4th Street and Woodland Avenue.
White fir, I call
Yes.
Whiteland
Yep.
wood fir. So how was this priority made, and why didn't white fir come up above this one?
Absolutely. So that was something that staff noticed, and we questioned NDOT as far as the selection of this particular location over the others. And so the response was adjacent to a school, Weststead Elementary there. We do have the traffic signal there that didn't have the preemption, the sidewalk connectivity, but most importantly, it was the proximity to the school.
Okay. So they have some discretion. They don't go straight down. They throw some discretion in. What is the avenue in the future to get our other crossings programmed and prioritized? Is it all NDOT, or do you participate on some technical committee?
But see, it's my understanding that the selections may have been actually done about 5 years ago. And speaking with the project manager, that person wasn't too familiar of what actually happened in the past. So that having been said, the project selections at this time is being completed by NDOT in consideration of all statewide crossings.
Okay, and you're going to those, participating in that prioritization and representing our interests?
I haven't had that opportunity at this time, but I can definitely inquire if we would have a seat at that table.
Yeah, or maybe, I could write a letter.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, I did have some other questions.
Well, let's ask someone else if they have questions first, so we can go around
Okay.
and be fair. Okay. All right, any further questions? No? Okay, sending it back to you, Ward 1.
Yeah, who is the deciding NDOT group that's working on this? Is it the Railroad Division or something like that, or is it?
Safety engineering.
Safety engineering, okay. And can we get a copy of that report?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I'll move to approve.
Thank you so much for doing that. And I just wanted to say, I'll second it. And I'd just like to say that we have, this is very much needed, and it has been needed for many years. Having the schools right there. I also mentioned in my briefing that there's a McDonald's right on the railroad tracks right there. There's 2 entrances and exits right across the street from each other. That is not at a signal, and it's feet away from this crossing, the railroad crossing. So it's very needed, and thank you very much. And thank you, Councilwoman Breckus.
All right, thank you. So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
Madam Clerk.
Moving back to item B8, as pulled by Councilmember
Ward
Breckus.
1. Go ahead. Councilwoman?
Oh, I thought we were bringing the staffer over. Oh, there he is. Hi, Mr. Michelle. Could we get a presentation on this item?
Good morning, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Mike Michelle, Engineering Manager for the record. Before you this morning is a RIF offset agreement with NP Reno Logistics, who is developing an industrial project on the south side of Virginia, a little bit east of Lemon Drive. The value of this agreement is a little more than $462,000. And the scope of work for this is about a half a mile of widening of North Virginia, to include 2 more travel lanes, curb and gutter and sidewalk. Staff recommends approval of this. This has already been approved by RTC.
So, thank you. How does this work? What does it mean that there's a waiver for $462,000? What does that mean?
That the $462,000 is the value of what their RIF fees would be. How this works is that they go out and do the improvements. And by the way, the actual value of the improvements that they're putting in is over $1.5 million, but they are only getting credit for $462,000 because that's the value of their RIF fees, and you can't get more credit than what your RIF fees would be. So how it works is they go out and they build the improvements, and it's inspected and approved by RTC and myself when it's done. And when they come in for their final building permit, they'll be credited the value of the improvements. And in this case, the value of the improvements will be what their RIF fees would be.
So the $1.5 million, they're just doing that out of the goodness of their heart?
They're doing it because that's what they need for their project.
It needs to happen.
Yeah, they need to put in turn lanes. They need to put in the extra travel lane. So they need to do this for their project.
Okay.
And they only get credit up to what their RIF fee obligation would be.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I am not going to support it because I have a problem with the RIF program. In this instance, they're not oversizing and getting credits from other benefit districts, which is good because sometimes credits can be paid in a place like Dickerson Road that's kicked off about, I don't know, maybe over 200 residential units in the time that I've been on the council. And that can go up to this North Benefit District for improvements and has. And Dickerson Road hasn't seen a thing, even though they're paying for road improvements and capacity. And capacity is never going to be spent in the urban core because we don't need capacity in the urban core. We actually need to retrofit roads and make them safer. But that is not a consideration. So we continue to pull these RIF fees from residential infill development and adds to the ticket price for individual infill development. So I've not supported the RIF program. I think it needs to be reexamined, even though we just adopted the 8th version. I think it is a very inequitable and a drag on housing affordability. So I won't support anything involved with it. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Jordan.
Thank you very much. A drag on affordability is voting no on every project. Move to approve.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Good job, guys. Okay. Yeah, thanks. Good motion. All right. I'm going to send it back to you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're moving on to item D1, which is for John Champion Park Interlocal Agreement. We have Jamie Schroeder here, and if you'll give us a moment, we're going to move over a few other participants while Jamie gets started.
All right, Jamie, nice to see you.
Good morning, for the record. Jamie Shorter, Director of Parks and Recreation. Also joining virtually, should council have questions for them, are Iris J. Lee Papard from One Truckee River and Cara Steeland with Truckee Meadows Water Authority. Spacebar's not working. Try it again. Nope. Okay, I'll try the remote. Nope. Brian, could you advance the slide for me, please? All right. The One Truckee River Management Plan was adopted by all 3 jurisdictions back in 2016. The river restroom project is in progress from that plan. Tumwa has partnered with One Truckee River to begin installing restrooms along the river. Council previously approved an interlocal agreement with Tumwa back in November of 2019 in order to install the first restroom at Broadhead Park. Since installation at Broadhead Park, there have been well over 12,000 flushes, which averages out to about 30 flushes a day. Next slide, please. The second restroom location that we are proposing is going to be in John Champion Park, which is located at 975 Coonsley Street. For reference up here, that park is highlighted in green, and it's between Sutro and Kitski Lane, so hopefully that helps you get a visual of where that park is located. This park is approximately 2 acres, has a picnic shelter, a barbecue area, tables and benches. And then, thank you, Brian, next slide. This slide shows the best location for the loo location in the park. We put a green circle around it to give you an idea. It is just about a little over halfway. It's closer to the river, but it has some good sight lines. And then based on where the utilities are located, it's the most efficient spot to put it. This photo right here is a rendering that Tumwa put together to give you an idea of what the loo is going to look like in the park from the street view. This is actually from the parking lot. The terms of the agreement and the tentative schedule are listed here on this slide. So with support from One Truckee River, Tumwa is responsible for purchase and installation of the restroom, as well as operation and maintenance of this restroom. This agreement, similar to the previous one council approved, does have a termination clause, but we would definitely make sure to work with Tumwa and One Truckee River should there be issues that we need to address so that this facility does not become a nuisance. Estimated timeline, the design work would be completed by May, and then construction would start in July, and hopefully the restroom would go into use by August of 2022. So the Portland Loo operation is different for the city of Reno versus other cities that are using the facility in the sense that we have an amazing partnership with Tumwa and One Truckee River. There is the River Stewards program, which is managed by the Karma Box Project, and that is able to happen because it's through a project that is funded with Washoe County, and then it's also supplemented by the Truckee River Fund. So One Truckee River, through a contract with Tumwa, will supply the loo when necessary, and then they address any needed repairs through coordination with the River Stewards program. So the River Stewards are responsible for managing both the loo at Broadhead Park and then the future one at John Champion Park. They operate from 9 to 1. And then they will clean the restroom at 9:30 in the morning, and then they come back at 7:30 p.m. to ensure that it is in good shape. And then the restroom is also on an automatic timer so that the ability to sleep in it overnight is mitigated. The stewards, I also appreciate, they do clean up the trash along the river from Broadhead to John Champion Park as well. And with that, the recommendation is to approve the interlocal agreement between City of Reno and Truckee Meadows Water Authority.
All right, thank you so much. Any questions? We've got Councilwoman Vice Mayor Jordan, and then I'll go to Councilwoman Dewar.
I actually think my speak button might have been up from the last time, so
Oh,
I'm
okay.
actually.
Okay, I'm going to send it to Councilwoman
No,
Dewar.
it doesn't let me press it to turn it.
Yeah.
Where's done?
No, our iPads are having some
Issues,
technical
yeah.
issues at the moment.
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Sorry.
Okay, Councilwoman Dewar.
Just, first of all, thank you so much for bringing this forward. It has been a journey. I think it's been 2 years since the first one was installed, roughly. So we have 2 years of operating experience and how it's working. And what I've seen now reports from Iris, I think there were 7 challenges or incidents or minor damage in this period. Very small. I mean, all of our restrooms get some kind of damage, whether it's graffiti or trash or litter or whatever. So I think that's very much to be expected. They are isolated in that they're standing on their own. But I love this program. As you know, I have supported it with council funds, not necessarily, and I don't recall if I actually put funds into this specific one. I don't recall that I did, but I'm just glad that you've continued on. I have a couple quick questions. Would it be possible to put an arrow to the restroom from the bike path, since it's not right on the bike path? It's a little offset.
Yep.
And it could just have a little sign, restroom, with an arrow, maybe that you could see from both sides. Just a thought. Number two, John Champion Park itself. I know that it was started by the RGJ in recognition of John Champion, who was a river advocate. Is that part of our park system now today? I mean, it looked pretty weedy. I don't know if we were looking at the park when you showed the picture.
Yes, so it is officially a part of the park system. It was something that we did need to do an administrative cleanup. I think we addressed that last year. And so it is, the land was deeded to us originally from the RGJ, and then there was something about during the property sale that deed never was recorded, but we're good to go now.
But now we're good. So it looked like weeds. So is there any kind of turf or any kind of landscaping there at all?
There is, that was a fall picture. It definitely greens up in the spring and the summertime. And then what we'll do, there is a shrub that is currently there that was just to the left of the picture that I showed with the superimposed loo on there.
Yeah.
We'll likely take that out because we want to make sure we have clean sight lines. But yeah, it does look very gorgeous with the amount of turf that is there in the spring, summer, and
I didn't know if it was a good opportunity for some even demonstrations, Xeriscape or whatever, since I don't think you want people to be hanging out there per se, I would imagine. Last question was, you flashed up on the screen some quick timeframes. So did I hear you say construction May? And then when was the completion? I think I missed that.
The design work should be completed by May, and then construction will hopefully start in July, and then hopefully the facility will be ready for use by the end of August. Tentative, of course. It always depends on permitting and all of that fun stuff.
Sure. Okay, but even fall. Last time you had since it was the first one, you had a really nice little ceremony. Then when we put it in, and I mean, it was a great opportunity for council and all the partners, Tumwa, Truckee River, to come together. So I'd encourage you to do that again. I know that it's not the first, it's now the second, but just reminding people this is an ongoing program, I think would be good. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
All right, Councilwoman Weber, did you want to jump in or no? Okay. Just let me know, yell at me, because I know that maybe your button's not working either. Really quickly, Jamie, let me ask you a couple things. I would love to see also a presentation with one Truckee River with the river stewards and also the river rangers. How are they working together?
Oh, yes, we can certainly provide an update on that. I will say that all of the different entities are working very well together, and each component has just their special niche, if you will, and it's quite amazing to see how everybody is chipping in and just ensuring that everybody's doing their part in order to make the river a place that everybody's going to want to come down to.
One of the things, I'd love to have a special council meeting on the river, but we also tour, we all start and let's walk it, the whole Reno side, because I think it's really important to see firsthand. The river has really been one of those, bones of contention for me. I feel like, most people don't know this. We do not have an ongoing source of funds to continue to invest in that river. It's one of our biggest and best assets, and I cannot believe, honestly, how it's sort of been, we all care about it, of course, but I think that we've got to do a much better job of making it such a massive priority. But I also want to see what condition it is in now, because I try to walk along there at least a couple times a week. And I really think the council, would really appreciate sort of seeing what's the condition. And once you see it firsthand, I think you'll have many more ideas and to get the council invested. So if we could work on that, that would be amazing. All right, any other comments, questions?
Madam Mayor, I would just say that our council meeting should be on the river by boat, because I'd love to see you
and by
in
the
the
way,
boat.
Rafting?
For those of you who don't know, Councilman Reese got right into a kayak and went right down. He literally
Scuba dive.
did a tremendous job and literally put his life on the line to do that for us. And I'm serious. Yeah.
I have rafted it in a raft with a group a while back, but kudos, in a kayak.
I'm okay to do it, but I'm a very fair-weathered person. Like, I don't.
It was
like
cold.
To do it in the cold.
Let me just
I'll
say.
do it
Even in the
June.
spring, it was cold.
But thank you so much. But I do think we should have a special council meeting on the river. It would be really good. Especially to it's our drinking
Yeah,
water.
second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thanks so much, Jamie. Good work, as always. All right, Madam Clerk.
All right, Madam Mayor, we're on item D2.
And then just really quickly, I do want to inform the public, Mr. City Manager, at 12, are we going to have an attorney-client meeting?
We do have an attorney-client meeting scheduled during the break. So if you want to finish this one, we can take a break and then we can come back afterwards.
That would be perfect. So, and I'm going to assume we're going to come back around, what, 1:15?
Well, depending on when this item gets finished up, 45
gonna
minutes
assume an hour.
for a break, an hour. Let's just
Okay.
call it an hour.
Okay, perfect. All right. Hi, Jeff. Nice to see you. Take
Nice
away,
to
Mr.
see you as
Leffer.
well. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and council members. I can make this brief so that you guys can make your noon here rather quickly as soon as my presentation comes up. So I'm very pleased to finally bring forward the selected consultant for the Virginia Street Urban Placemaking Study. I know it's been a long time waiting, so it's great to be able to bring them forward to present to you and seek your approval to enter into an agreement with them to start the study. I do just want to kind of refresh everyone's memory on the timeline. I know I've been receiving feedback from the community concerned about the length it's taking to get to the consultant being selected. So I do just want to make this part of the public record of, just what we've been working under, what staff's been doing since you guys entered into the interlocal cooperative agreement with RTC to fund half of the study. So that occurred on September 8th. A week later, on September 15th, the staff for the city of Reno released the request for qualifications. That closed on October 27th, which resulted in 5 firms submitting a proposal to us. Those were reviewed by a selection committee mid-November, and from that, we determined that we needed to conduct interviews because of the tight scoring range. We wanted those interviews to occur a little sooner, but due to COVID, one of the teams was not able to participate, and we had to push out those interviews later in January than we wanted, but we finally got them done, and now we're here today. Referenced the selection committee that consisted of 3 staff members, City of Reno, 2 staff members from RTC, a member from EDON, and a member from the Downtown Reno Partnership. And the figure there, you can see the tight range that I was referring to. So of the 5, Design Workshop, Gill, and Stantec, they obviously scored within a very tight range. The other 2 were very clear that they weren't in the ranking that the members completed. The important thing to note out of those rankings is 4 of the 7 members liked Gill the best. However, Stantec did score the highest. But again, it's important to note that Gill was the top scorer of 4 of the 7. So because of that, we did feel that we needed to move to an interview process to get a better feeling for those firms and see who would work best with the city of Reno in producing this study for us. And the primary reason, and it was a unanimous decision by the selection committee to move forward with Gill, and the primary reason was for tactile urbanism and their stakeholder engagement process. And I wanted to give you just a definition of tactical urbanism. It's short-term, low-cost, and scalable interventions to catalyze long-term change. And I think the best representation of that is actually what we've done out at City Plaza by just taking those skate features and putting them out there to see how the community would react to it. And so that's what they want to do as part of their study and part of their engagement. They want to do many pilot programs just, to play with the street and see how people want to engage and how they will engage in that. I thought it was important to note that. I know in my staff report, I discussed adding additional timeline to that 6-month study time frame. And the only reason I put that in there, because as we met with the other teams, we knew it was a tight time schedule, and we asked if you could get 2 more months, what would that do? And it was kind of unanimous that they felt that they could do more stakeholder engagement and more alternative development. However, all of the firms that did presentations for us agreed that they could commit to the 6-month timetable. So it's really just to put it out there for council members to get a feel for whether or not, if we could get a little more out of the study, would it be okay to extend that time frame? And again, under this timeline, Gil has proposed to start in the beginning of March with a presentation to council in the end of August. So with that, the proposed recommendation is for staff to finalize the agreement with Gil and for the city manager to execute that agreement in the amount of $150,000. I think it's important to note that that $150,000 amount was the same price across the board, so it didn't make it wasn't a determination in making a decision, as they all committed to the $150,000. And I think it's also important to note that our city's attorney's office would like to make a few changes to that agreement, but in terms of the time, the scope, and the cost, nothing like that will change with our updates to the agreement. Before I turn it over to questions, I would like to give Gil the opportunity to introduce themselves to staff, and they'll also be available to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, great job.
Thank you.
Super loving it. Okay, is he, he's coming in. Or
she.
They're on
she.
the Zoom.
Hi, Sophie and Myra, you're on mute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, can you hear us? Welcome.
Yes, I can hear you. So much. Very, very pleased and very thankful to Jeff for that introduction. My name is Mayra Madrid. I joined my colleague Sophie Kist. We're part of the team. We're urban design studio in Hagen with offices in the United States, in San Francisco and New York. We have done a number of projects that have similar challenges. Our team is working on driving consensus. So for us, it's really important. It's not so much about getting to design as an object, but getting to the design solution as a process and listening to the different parts. We're thrilled about this project and looking forward to starting to engage with all of you, with the team in the city, and also to start listening from the different stakeholders that have a concern and a desire to see change on Virginia Street. We're happy to answer any questions you may have about our expertise or prior experience. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
All right, thank you so much. Sophie, that was you, right? Myra?
That was Mayra. This was Mayra.
Okay.
Mayra, yeah.
But it says Sophie up there. I don't know.
Yes, so hi there. So Sophie Quist, I am with Gail as well, working with Myra, and I will be the project manager for the project.
Okay, that's great. All right, does anyone want to ask them any questions? Go ahead. Councilwoman Vice Mayor Darden.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited about this. I know there has been a tremendous amount of work done to this point, and thank you, Jeff. You have done a tremendous job of leading this project. And I know it's kicked off a little later than maybe we wanted, but I think the work you put in to make sure that the right questions were asked and the right directions were clear was really, really important. So thank you to the entire team that met with multiple people multiple times. I appreciate it very much. My questions are just this is, when does the official interviewing meeting process with the stakeholder groups begin? And how long from kicking off to being back before us to say, here's what the recommendations are?
Yeah, so that would be something that we'll work with Gil on, forming a strategy. So we will have a kickoff meeting at a staff level. As part of that, I do want to work with Gil to actually bring them back to council either at the end of March or beginning of April to kind of really run through what their process looks like. So similar to the presentation they gave to us. So I do want that to happen initially. And then public engagement according their timeline is going to be within 2 months. They want to do information gathering and some other, just analysis of the city of Reno. And I think it was the May timeframe where we'd be really getting into that public engagement piece. But we could obviously, flex that schedule however council members would like us to do as well.
Okay, so I'm just trying to get an estimate. So it'll take approximately 2 months for the public engagement process, or it'll take 2 months to figure out what the engagement process is going to be?
It would, I don't think it's 2 months. I don't think it's going to take that long. But yes, there's, part of that kickoff and strategy meeting is to start developing what this framework looks like.
Okay, and then do we have any idea, once that process is kicked off? I mean, what's the outside? Do we think it's a year?
Can I bring up my slide deck real quick? There was I'll bring that timeline.
Okay.
There we go.
I apologize if I missed what you.
So this is the timeline that Gil had presented to us as part of their proposal.
Okay, so back to us with final everything in August.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I was looking for.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, any questions? Councilman Reese?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Ms. Fiss and Ms. Madriz. Thank you for the incredibly thorough presentation that's in the materials. I guess 2 questions. One was asked of me last night by a constituent about what are the geographic contours of where the study is supposed to be examining. I know it's called the Virginia Street Placemaking Study. Does that mean that the only street to be examined is Virginia Street? And if so, what are the northern and southern ends of it? And then does it go east-west at all to look at Center, Sierra? I just am trying to understand, what is the physical geography we're asking for the analysis to be performed on?
Yes, correct. I mean, ultimately, the analysis will be on Virginia Street, but absolutely, Sierra and Sienna are going to be part of that because whatever we're doing on Virginia Street is going to have an impact on those streets as well. So that will be part of our visioning exercises to see if we do this, what's the impacts of those streets, or how do those streets complement Virginia Street, and then the east-west linkages, what can be done on those east-west linkages as well.
Well, and then the only other thing I'll say is what I really appreciate about the particular group that we are looking to select is the depth of international experience. It feels like at times U.S. cities have not quite figured out the elements of walkability, bikeability, livability in some of our streetscape. And so as I have been, I've only been on the council for a short while, but when I do travel, and that hasn't been a lot of late, and looking at other cities, it's sort of the lens through which I view a lot of the things that I think I would like here. Mm-hmm. And so when I see the depth of the experience internationally of these 2 fine experts, that is also something that excites me. Because, for example, there's some cute photos, of course, in the materials, but of like swings on a city street and planters and, a lot of things that we don't, or we have not historically placed extreme value on. And so those are the kind of things that I will be looking forward to seeing. How do we make this important street in our city be something that we are proud of? And we have so many great things to highlight along it. Midtown, I think we are getting there and gotten closer. And so I'll be looking forward to those elements. But thank you for the presentation.
Right. Just really quickly, do you know, what was the timeline to bring in stakeholders? When is that?
So according to this, we have it starting May.
In May, okay. And then also, I'm sure they're keenly aware of the cycle track initiative, yeah.
They are.
Okay. Councilwoman Breckus.
Yeah. Did you attach the contract?
It is. It was uploaded after the fact, so you guys may not have seen it in your package.
Yeah, I have not seen it. And, I spend the weekend reading these things. Mm-hmm. The contract needs to be there, in my view, especially on a Monday holiday with a special workshop yesterday, Mr. Manager. And I asked you this morning to have copies, always have hard copies by my desk, because I didn't support going forward with this because I felt it was very chaotic of a concept, was Virginia Street placemaking study, but that didn't match up with what I saw as your scope, which was looking at social, economic factors, considerations. So the ones that weren't even physical, that were even market trends, very broad, like a very comprehensive, general plan or specific plan. And then, of course, the questions about the streets. The council had already given the direction with RTC to start doing the cycle track on Center Street. What is the status of that right now?
I can't speak to that. I don't know if Ms. Koski's available or not.
Who can?
I was looking for Ms. Koski, Carrie Koski.
Oh, yeah. Because we had some agreement that it would continue going, and it was going to come back after the council gave the go-ahead to do this placemaking. It was going to come back, and we were going to have a discussion on it. Do you remember that?
In terms of the cycle track?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't oversee that project, so I can't really speak to it. I mean,
Oh.
again, as part of this study, that the work that's going on there will be looked at and
Carrie knows
incorporated.
all about it. She can speak to that, but obviously she's not here, so I want to move on. Where are we at, Madam Clerk, in time?
1 minute remaining.
Okay.
Can I keep asking questions then? Thank you for letting me have the floor. So, when you bring in the urban designers, and the team looks great. One of the people actually even went to my graduate school, has the same degree. But when you bring in the urban designers for blocks, you're really on the advent of funding improvements and, moving into a design. I'm a little concerned we haven't identified this as a funding priority for improvements, right?
Well, I mean, that's part of the study, that they will provide an implementation and financing plan. So whatever those alternatives are determined to be, and that preferred alternative is chosen, then there will be a financing and implementation plan. And then that will be on us to move forward with, or not move forward with, the recommendations.
Well, the question I have there is, looking at these few blocks in a vacuum, is why have those jumped over Center Street or other streets? And the downtown transportation plan of like the 2015, are there other priorities than this street within the downtown scenario?
I'm sure there are priorities for those other streets, but at this time, council gave direction to proceed with looking at Virginia Street specifically. And so that's what this study is aimed to do.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions from council members?
Last thing.
Go ahead.
When do I know you said interviews in May with the stakeholders, which means they're going to do some preliminary work these next couple months.
Correct.
So would you just say again, what is on this timeline, what is the actual, it's hard for me to read, but just for the oral, what is the expected end?
End of August. We'll be back to council at the end of August.
End of August. So that's pretty short, from May to end of August.
Correct.
Okay.
And again, this is just an overview right now. We will have our kickoff meeting and strategy session. And so we'll, obviously take that into consideration. Maybe we need to be looking at trying to get more time for that engagement.
Yeah.
And again, that's why in the staff report, I did
do
ask.
think that's incredibly important. I mean, other people have already mentioned it, but, and the mayor's already mentioned the tying in with the cyclotron or the Center Street bike project and alternatives. But let me just ask for one more time on the record. The goal of this project is, when we talk placemaking, I want to make sure I understand the definition. Could you just say what you think it is?
Yeah, it's looking at Virginia Street and seeing, I mean, the end goal is to how do we bring people back down to Virginia Street?
Okay.
So now this study is going to look at how do we do that? What things can we do? And one of the reasons we chose Gil was their idea of doing these pilot projects through this engagement is, okay, if we put these skateboard elements, if we put a little stand-up
Cart
coffee
place.
shop or a cart place that's selling souvenirs or, Reno items, like maybe we work with Nevada Means Home, and just these pop-up things, and how does the community interact with that?
Respond to
and
that.
respond to that.
Okay.
And then if it doesn't work, you move on and change it. And so that was, again, one of the main reasons we liked them, because it was this idea that we're not just going to do a study, we're going to start
It's
doing work.
interactive,
It's
and they're
interactive
actually
work.
practicing what they're preaching, and they're test driving it
Yes,
while they're creating
right.
the concept.
Their goal is when they leave, it's actually a successful implementation.
And when they're done, do you think we'll have enough information to move forward
Yes.
with something?
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Mayor? All right. Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Thank you very much. This area is my ward, the downtown area, and I think anybody that's been, one of the most stark things that the community can see specifically is if you drive through Midtown and you see not just the physical components of the street and the beautiful sidewalks and the trees and that sort of thing, but you see the activities that are driven by the opportunities of retail and different things in that area. And you can drive up and it's almost like a light switch. You come up through Midtown and there is great activity in all of those places, very vibrant, lots of commerce going on. And then you get up to about here, about First Street, and it's like someone just turns the light switch off. And it becomes very unappealing, and depressing is a word that's been used. And what we have been missing is, while people have said, here's what you need to do with this, or here's what you need to do with that, we've never had a comprehensive visual of what that looks like and what the actions are to begin to bring that vision to life. And people have asked, well, what is the vision? What are you all wanting to see there? And we as a community, we can be a part of helping you get there. We've not had that visual representation of here's what you need to do and here's what it will look like and here's how it will function and here's why it's important to invest and make it happen. This is what's going to help us do that. And it's not going to help them by this body, slamming a hammer on somebody, making them do something. It's going to happen by all of us getting behind it, getting excited about it. It's going to happen by saying a block-long brick wall, not inviting. I don't care how many infrastructure improvements you do on Virginia Street. If there's nothing there exciting to go to, they're going to go right on through. So everybody's got to get on board with what these experts say will activate the foot traffic, the bikes, the scooters, all the things we want to see to bring back vibrancy. So that's what we've been lacking, the vision. And this to me is a great way that we're going to get there. And Madam Mayor, when we are prepared, I will make a motion, full-throated motion to approve this.
You want to give me a motion?
I believe, I don't know where we are in the rounds.
Yeah,
I think we've been two. You've already had two.
No, I haven't. I've only, and for the consultants, we're very tight on our time restrictions, so we only get 6 minutes, sometimes 7 to talk, but I think I've only had
We
one.
are on two. Okay.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, motion to approve.
No, well, excuse me.
I have a motion, I
I'd
have a
like-
second, and
can I talk?
discussion. Hold just 1 minute, I'll give you time, I always give you time, I always give you
No,
extra time, Ms. Breckus, so hold on 1 second. So we have a motion and a second. Discussion, Councilwoman Breckus.
Yeah, under our rules, we get 2 3-minute chances before a motion, unless there's
And
a
you
call.
You got two.
No, I didn't, did I? I got 2 3-minute calls? I don't know that I did. Okay.
You did.
Okay. Very tight considerations for talking very important things. I want to continue to explain my concern about this. I mean, any urban design, great. But what I just heard from Ms. Jardin about, the activity levels aren't there, to me, that's much more to the private real estate and what's going on. And the greatest risk there is losing the more private, smaller real estate, where a mom and pop could open up. And I don't think the urban designers are going to get there. If they're going to do, and what I heard from you was a lot of programmatic, like kind of a continuation of what's going on, the locomotion plaza, space creating, and that has merit. And our downtown plan talked about that. But then I'm also trying to understand if there's urban, construction project we're moving forward. Go stand up curves, get rid of the candy canes, get rid of the concrete stamp. I mean, at the end of the day, this deliverable that you see, how do you envision that? Because I see more, and we have been talking about that at the Historic Preservation Resources Commission, is the private spaces and how to activate that. What do you see the outcome there?
So again, they're going to do their initial analysis. We're going to do stakeholder engagement. So again, going back to that vision statement, Gil likes to go to the street. We're not going to sit in a conference room and invite people in. They're going to actually go out to the street, set up poster boards, and work with the individuals that they interact on the street. What would you like to see here? So it's more about changing the mindset of individuals, of reimagining how Virginia Street could be used. So that's ultimately one of the primary goals that Gil wants to accomplish.
Okay.
And that will then start driving your alternative developments in terms of how the streetscape could be designed, because all of the consultants can do the hardscaping. That's the
Okay,
easy part.
okay.
But how
Okay.
do you get people to change their perspective of what Virginia Street could be and used?
That's very helpful. 22 years ago, I was the planner, and we brought in a design team to do a charrette over on Wells Avenue. And out of that came a construction project, came the creation of the Wells Business District Association, the private sector. So now I am understanding it's a design charrette with a broad scope of programming opportunities and the engagement piece. Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, I had
Yeah,
a
hold on
comment.
one thing. And Jeff, here's what I would also say. The pilot programs, I think, are essential because oftentimes we will invest in infrastructure and really not know what the outcome is. So this is really, really significant. And also, I think it's a really good opportunity to actually really get it right. I think we need to do more placemaking studies now more than ever. People want to live in cities where they do have great walkability, every aspect of quality of life. There's a really cool concept. It's called cul-de-sac. It's in Tempe, Arizona. I don't know if you've seen it, but
I don't know it.
they talk so much about, placemaking. And so now more than ever, like, I'm really proud of this council to say, this is a priority. And I know it was tough for, some of the cyclists that came, and I know they want a cycle track so bad, but we all do. But it's really important that we do it right and not necessarily fast. So I'm super excited. I think you've done a tremendous job. And, this is exactly the ways in which we should be planning cities.
May I ask one question?
Yes, go ahead.
In terms of the timeframe, so again, the consultant has signed up to have this deliverable by the end of August. But I've also heard concerns about not having enough time for the stakeholder engagement. And again, that was the reason why that was put into the staff report of, if we were to get another month and come back in September, should it be needed? I mean, is that something that staff should be exploring, or should we be sticking to, we need to commit to this August deadline? And so if I can get some direction.
Of course, we all want it yesterday, but at the same time, I think you have to just take it how it comes, because sometimes what we see is more people start to get engaged, they haven't heard about it, and then they come in and they're like, what happened? This was already down the road and I wasn't brought in. And so we want to make sure everyone is heard and everyone at the table. So make sure that you include everyone, because that's going to be essential to make it great.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Councilwoman.
Yeah,
Bernard.
I agree. And I think that you need the full summer, even into September, to experiment. And I would hate to see that cut short because of an artificial deadline. So, I mean, it's going to take what it's going to take. The second thing I wanted to say, because this is about the only time I will ever speak to the consultants, is for years we have discussed the fact that we have monolithic buildings along Virginia without places for people to stop, shop, look, explore. We have more opportunities as you get closer to the river, but as you get a few blocks away down Virginia, you just have monolithic, including overpasses, off on Sierra and so on. So consultants, please be aware, this has been discussed for a decade at least, is that it would be very good, we think, we'd like to hear from you, to have openings into the casino walls. I'll just put it that way. Whether it's a coffee shop, whether it's a boutique, whether it's a parklet there, whatever it is, a lot of people think that could be part of the answer. So please don't overlook that. I'm sure you wouldn't, because that's what you do. But I just wanted to let you know that all of us are aware of that conversation.
And we full-heartedly support you.
Yes. So please make sure you address it and in depth. And I know that you can't, as an experiment, break down a casino wall and open up a coffee shop that would, go into a casino. But you could set up the coffee cart there and just see what happens. So just be aware that there's a lot of support for that kind of change.
Thank you, Madam Council Member. We really appreciate that. And thinking about how each activation can play a key role in impacting the quality of the public realm and ultimately the way the street looks, feels, and is being used is definitely going to be a key part of our work.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Thank
I
you.
also just want to recognize what Councilman Reese said. I think you hit the nail on the head. The European cities do it so much better. And so I love that there's background in this because I think it's really, really important. So I'm super excited. Thank you, Jeff. I think you did a great job. Okay, so you gave me a motion. I think there was a second, and that was discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That's amazing. Unanimously. Thank you, Jeff. Great job. Okay, Madam Clerk, we are going to go into attorney-client meeting and lunch for, let's come back at 1:30.
Madam Mayor, we have maybe 3 items and 2 of those are adoptions. So could we maybe not take an hour and a quarter minutes? I think the rest of our business, to my analysis, would take less than a half hour.
Actually,
I don't know. It depends on I don't know how long attorney-client is. Sometimes that's an hour.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
let's do that, and then we can come back at 1:15.
Yeah.
Welcome back to you.
Did you get lunch, Mickey?
I got to talk to my staff. That's the thing I did on my break.
Energy.
What did you say?
If you're not eating, we need you to have energy.
I have all the energy. I'm so ready. Derek says he'll shake my chair when I start to nod off.
Okay,
so.
okay, that's good.
All right,
That's
give me a
good.
second to get this started.
You just let me know when you're ready.
All right, Madam Mayor, we will call the meeting back to order at 1:19, and all members are present. So we are moving on to item D3, and we are going to be opening item D31 and D32 together. And we have a presentation today from Cynthia.
Perfect. All right, any public comment?
Madam Mayor,
None?
we have no public comment registered.
Perfect. Okay, Cynthia, it's all you. Take it away.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, City Council Manager Thornley. Cynthia Esparza with the City Manager's Office for the record. Today before you, we have a Clean and Safe program update in addition to a contract proposal with RISE. So we will open up with the update itself. Clean and Safe was created in December of 2019 as an emergency strategy to address encampments along the river, concerns with public health and public safety. Over time, the program has definitely grown. Today, we are driven by the mission of improving equitable access to public space through a collaborative approach to outreach with our unsheltered neighbors, community health, and public safety. To provide a quick overview of 2021, in January, we reestablished a contract with the Karma Box Project. Through this partnership, we were able to have additional outreach efforts coordinated specifically along the river corridor. The focus itself was connecting individuals to services, but also sharing information about the future shelter. This partnership continued until the end of 2021. From January to May, we also prioritized outreach internally as Clean and Safe. We have a community outreach coordinator internally with our staff. And the message throughout that time period was we are having a new shelter that will be opening, the Nevada Cares campus. So really sharing that message and what is coming down the pipeline in our community. In May until September, we focused on a Truckee River operation. This was a coordinated effort to restore the corridor's natural habitat. I do want to highlight that while we do acknowledge that there were significant encampments throughout the river corridor, a lot of areas along the river are subject to illegal dumping. They're open sites. It's an easy location to dispose of debris, so that's definitely part of that as well. And then in October of 2021, we established a one-year pilot program with the Downtown Reno Partnership. The program itself is for park ambassadors, 3 park ambassadors that provides outreach and support within the bid, in addition to Bicentennial Park and Barbara Bennett. And this pilot program is still in place until October of this year. Clean and Safe itself, it's definitely, it's a pretty large program. There are 10 departments that are part of this that are involved in various levels. In this organizational chart, I also included our partners because we can't do it alone, and that includes the KTMB, for example, working with the Carson Truckee Water Conservancy District, working with the CARES campus and making sure that we have the most accurate information to share. This also includes our staff for the Clean and Safe team, which currently is 3, in addition to others throughout various departments as well. Before I move on to this, I would like to highlight that yesterday was the first day for the newest member of our team, who is a licensed social worker. Her name is Caitlin Canner. Very excited to bring someone on board with that expertise, who was specifically looking at this program because she wants to exercise what she learned in school, which is fantastic. Operational coordination. There's a lot of coordination for our program. We currently have 3 standing meetings. Our daily operations meetings happen every morning, where we review service requests that come in from the community the previous day. Our weekly downtown meetings are specifically for our downtown area, highlighting what we're seeing, where we need assistance. But this has also been important for us as a community in providing outreach, specifically before pretty significant events that happen in the downtown area, making sure that people know what's happening and ensuring that everyone will be safe. With our daily operations huddle, I would like to highlight that part of the conversations that we have is really deployment of services. So if there is a concern that is presented on, say, a private parcel where code enforcement is involved, through these operations and these conversations, we're able to ensure that we have outreach as part of that piece as well, which helps with getting individuals to services. And then last but not least, our monthly meeting, which is our larger team meeting. We have that every other week. I would also like to highlight that these are meetings that I coordinate through the team itself, various departments. So we always have a central person, which is myself, making sure we all have the same information. We all are aware of the different activities and providing the same resources as well. For 2021, fiscal impacts, we're looking at 1.5 million. This includes our contract with the Karma Box project. We also have the contract with the Downtown Reno Partnership, dedicated staff for Clean and Safe, and Qualicom, which is our service provider. When it comes to dedicated staff, we have our Clean and Safe staff, but we also have our park rangers, our community action officers, myself, where we dedicate a significant amount, if not 100% of our time, to Clean and Safe operations and outreach. Community health and safety. I can't stress this enough. When Clean and Safe was created, it was to address emergency issues. We will continue to do so and provide outreach and resources as needed. As you can see, the picture in the culverts, this was taken after a rainstorm and we were expecting another one. Outreach and sharing that this is happening. We need to get you to the shelter. This is not safe. That's part of what we do. Fortunately, these tents, they were vacated when we arrived, but that's the reality of Reno's weather. It changes swiftly. And then fires, they're common. We know that. This was an area along Commercial Row. It was during broad daylight. Fortunately, the response was immediate. No one was hurt. But we know that happens at night, and oftentimes people do get hurt. So public health, safety, it's making sure that everyone's quality of life is valued in our community. Another piece, of course, is public spaces. As we want to ensure that everyone is safe, we also want to ensure that our public spaces are accessible by all, by families who want to take their children to the park on the weekend. This is a before and after picture of Fisherman's One Park. They're different angles, but I could assure you it's the same park. And that's something we'll continue to do. With the Truckee River operation, we were able to address a lot of the issues that we had been seeing. And we have staff that is very involved in providing the resources as needed. Our goal is to not have such accumulation in our community. 2021 service request. So like I shared earlier, we review service requests every morning. We have a team that gets together and prioritizes what we're responding to, where we need help, what additional resources may be needed. Last year, we had over 1,700 service requests. Continue to see the trends. In the summertime, they go up. The wintertime, they decrease. We did see a 13% decrease from 2020 to 2021, and that could be because of the pandemic. But this is really important to highlight because this is what we're seeing as staff and how we are able to deploy resources throughout the community. There may be areas that are not reported to Reno Direct where staff makes observations that there's activity in, say, a culvert or in a willow, and we'll address them as well. But these are all coming from members of our community. Looking at trends from the past couple years, we do see a spike in 2020, a slight decrease in 2021. Of course, our goal is to ensure that the decrease continues throughout the year and seeing where we'll end in at the end of this year. Overall activities from 2021, there were a total of 29 cleanups. That amounted to 10,088 cubic yards of waste collected. And that is collected by the Clean and Safe team, our service provider, Karma Box, and I'm missing the other one, Public Works. Over 1,500 notices were issued. So these are the notices that individuals receive when an area will be cleaned. Overall, we're seeing 185% increase year to year in terms of waste. So the 10,088 cubic yards of waste, what does that look like? The waste collected last year would cover Mackey Stadium at 5 feet, 6 inches tall. I'm 5'5", so essentially my height across the field.
Great analogy. Thank you.
Future projects. Just wanted to highlight these before I really get into our key part of the program, which is our outreach. We are currently working on attaining 2 additional park rangers through the Truckee River Flood Management Authority. Parks and myself are working out those logistics. The 2 park rangers would be dedicated specifically to the river, so those will be coming on board in the coming months or weeks, hopefully soon. The other piece that we're working on is an increase in river stakeholder engagement. We were very fortunate to welcome a PAC Pride intern from the university who is researching ways to engage the river corridor, how to create that engagement with our residents and businesses alike. And then last but not least, ongoing outreach, training, and coordination. I don't think learning ever stops. There's something new, a new approach to an issue, something to model perhaps. So training will be ongoing. So community outreach. When Clean and Safe started, this was a piece of it, but it wasn't at the forefront. Today, this is how we lead our operations, helping and providing resources or information as needed. This definitely takes time, and it's built on trust. Trust over numerous conversations, point of contacts. So I wanted to highlight a couple stories for you. The first picture you see here, you'll see Antonio Gilmore and Russell Keys. They have the biggest hearts I've ever encountered in an individual. They lead our outreach efforts. Through their contact with the individual in the middle, they were able to enroll him into the Reno Works program, and we'll be graduating next week. That definitely took a lot of conversations and building that trust. Family reunification. This is something I did not know happened frequently, but it could happen. The individual you see here came to Reno, different circumstances, things changed. He lost touch with his family, was connected with our outreach team, and decided to call his mom. The next day, he used a city phone. The next day, the mom called and said, "Where's my son? I'm driving. I took the day off. I'm driving to Reno to pick him up." And then the very last picture, community court. Community court has become part of the Clean and Safe team as far as operations, coordination of resources. What that means is we are able to coordinate with their case managers, share information about community court, get people to community court as well, and also dispel the idea that community court is only if you receive a citation. It's open to everyone. It happens every week. So through that partnership, we are seeing positive impacts in that area as well. Quick overview of outreach. So last year we had over 9,000 individual contacts, and that includes the Clean and Safe staff and community action officers. That number does not include contacts the VOA may have, the VA, the Eddie House, the Community Services Agency, and those are all partners that we work with and invite them to do outreach with us. Overall, there were 59 housing arrangements made, 65 identification replacements, and that includes helping someone get an appointment, providing transportation, and then 4 employments were facilitated. I would like to highlight the Safe Camp enrollment. Antonio Gilmore works closely with the county and is on a committee that helps identify individuals that would be a fit for the Safe Camp. So that's definitely been a positive partnership that has been developed for the Clean and Safe team. In recent weeks, and yesterday as well, we heard much about the deaths that occurred last year, the 52 deaths in our community. And it's really important to highlight a summary and kind of show what we could do or hope to do to ensure that this number does not increase. What we're seeing is based on the point in time count and the deaths per year, there has been an average of 3% deaths per year, which is actually proportionate to the number of the population that is counted in the PIT count. The vast majority, of course, are accidental, and that could include drowning, poisoning, injuries, and pedestrian collisions as well. Natural deaths follow, and that's just getting attention as needed. We have seen suicides as well, homicides, and then the undetermined pending, the findings could potentially be leaded to chronic abuse itself. And I share this with much compassion, but this is what we are seeing in our community, and that's what the number 52 looks like. And I understand there's a vigil this evening on City Plaza that will honor the deaths that we encountered in our community last year. And most importantly, as these numbers are considered and we work on building systems of care and support, it's all part of the big picture. As we move on to the RISE contract itself, There are three key pieces that we would like to accomplish through this partnership. One is support the most vulnerable service-resistant individuals. This past year, outreach has been our number one goal. And what we're seeing is that there are significant numbers of individuals who do not want to accept services, who perhaps make contact with a member of our team and move locations. So you start to learn the names and recognize the faces. Second, integrating lived experience and peer-to-peer engagement. This is something we've heard in the community. Bringing someone on board with that lived experience who could speak the same language, share perhaps a similar story, and the peer-to-peer engagement will really help our team. Most importantly, it would also have the RISE team itself take the lead in outreach, which would decrease the pressure of our enforcement agencies, which could include law enforcement, code enforcement, and fire as needed. And last but not least, strengthen connections and trust among the community. We recognize that when we show up in a city vehicle and are in a uniform or even a polo with the City of Reno logo, we're connected to government, the City of Reno. Through this approach, our goal is to have someone who is connected to the population, familiar with the resources, could speak the same language and kind of share this, I was in your shoes, and build those relationships at a different level that we cannot at this point do ourselves. Most importantly, this partnership could really be transformative for our community. It's definitely a different approach, thinking a little bit outside of the box. And we would bring the RISE staff onto the team with an outreach group. So the outreach group would include our outreach staff, RISE, and we would coordinate those efforts similar to what we do with our daily huddles. And with that, I have two recommendations. One is to accept the 2021 Clean and Safe Program Report. The second one would be approval of the 16-month contract with RISE for peer-to-peer engagement outreach.
Okay. Thank you so much. Cynthia, I know you know this like the back of your hand. You've done a tremendous job. I also want to thank, because much of this resulted into a meeting that Jackie facilitated, and I want to give Jackie huge props. I think people don't realize, like, she has the heart of gold. I don't think they really, I mean, because she's all business, right? And then, like, she is just unbelievable and so compassionate, and that's what we need. But that, because of her due diligence and her hard work, this is where we are today. And I think it's so needed, and I think it's where we really have missed the mark on so many levels. Because it's so challenging, but I think you can have, action with compassion for sure. And I just want to shout out to Jackie for making this happen. It's really, really important and so necessary. But I also and you guys know this, I want to bring it right back to we've got to start getting, proactive instead of reactive. And that's where, come June, I'm going to ask for everyone's help up here about the mental health aspect of all of this. And ways in which we can, help treat addiction and things like that. Because it's so hard. This is so challenging. And then it goes back to where I think there's a massive issue, and we touched on it yesterday, but is the access points to getting people housing. That we need to really focus on, because we could make some massive inroads if we had people on the ground doing that. Literally on the ground, instead of it's really hard to make people go to some place. We should be going to them and to helping them. And so I just I'm going to keep talking about mental health, and we're going to, everyone's got to be at the table to get it done, because that has to be part of the process. So I just want to say thank you tremendously, Cynthia and Jackie. Massive kudos. Massive. Thank you. All right. Any public comment? I don't think we have any, correct? We're going to go to Vice Mayor Jordan.
Thank you very much. I have a number of questions, and I did want to start with some comments. I thought the contract was only 12 months, and I see here it's 16, so I'm not sure how that, or why that's that odd sort of number.
It was updated to 12 months to capture the next fiscal year. So the 4 months this year, next
But it's a
fiscal year.
16-month contract.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Oh, you updated it to say, okay, because I was told it was only a 12-month contract.
Right.
Okay. So that's different than what I understood it to be before. My questions are this. I think, Reno has led the way on trying to find innovative and out-of-the-box thinking ways to help the most vulnerable amongst us. We were the ones that created, and pushed for the Community Homeless Advisory Board. We're the ones that did the tiny homes. We're the ones that did Sage Street. We're the ones that did Reno Works. We're the ones that did the CARES campus. We're the ones. So I am all for whatever things we can try to see that work. I want to and will be supportive of. I mean, I think every time, what do you say, Madam Mayor? If you stop trying, you're dying, or if you fail, or what that saying is. And I agree with that. I think we've made tremendous progress. I mean, you can walk along the river now. It doesn't look anything like it did before. People have more open access. Everybody has access. But my concern is this. We have a number of groups that are doing this work in the same or similar vicinity. And I think the biggest concern that I have, and it will fall on our shoulders, your shoulders, to help coordinate, is to ensure that the good work that the Downtown Reno ambassadors are doing, and the good work that Grant Denton and the Karma Box is doing, and the great work that Rise does and could be doing if we approve this contract, that we don't end up into a I'm doing it, you're not sort of scenario, and we end up into a turf war or finger pointing or I'm effective, you're not sort of thing. The coordination is going to be key on this, and I just want to better understand how is everybody going to be swimming in the same direction together? Because there have been groups, I'm not pointing at any group in particular, where they have highlighted the inefficiencies of another group. I just want to make sure that's not going to be a part of this, that there's not going to be any of that going on, that everybody's going to be working, hand in glove to help our vulnerable neighbors to get the resources they need and to help to address some of the issues we're having in our community. That's my biggest concern, is the coordination and the cooperation. So can you speak to that?
Absolutely. The coordination is key. What we are doing, we will essentially add another layer of coordination for outreach specifically. I think that the daily huddle that we currently have looks at service requests and responding to, say, a property, something along the river. Outreach is a little bit different because there's a person connected to that. Well, that would be having Rise on these calls, the Karma Box, Grant Denton, our Downtown Reno partnerships, our outreach coordinator, who have access to HMIS, which is a key piece to this, because that's where we could centralize information. I think another piece is just the qualitative stories that we will get from these conversations, because there may be someone who was in one location, was willing to get help, and moved, that could be encountered by, say, Karma Box in a different location. So I think we're all in it together. It will take a lot of coordination, a lot of just overall efforts from everyone to ensure that we're all on the same page. We all have the same mission. We're all making an impact in our community, and this is how we could do it.
One of the things is maybe sort of like an org chart or something. I got to be really honest with you. The downtown bid, like this is sort of, what they specialize in downtowns. And I honestly think they should be sort of the point person on this, and then all these other, sort of org charts sort of fall in place. Because I think everyone has got to be on the same page. And when everyone has different entities, so to speak, it gets very siloed. It doesn't matter what it is. Look at Reno, look at Sparks, look at the county, right? And oftentimes we all want the same thing, but yet we're very siloed because of the communication. So I really do think the structure, and if it's not now, then if this is something we do moving forward, it's the bid is, has to be here at the very top. And this falls all within the structure of it. And I also want to make sure that we're doing all we can to make sure that the services are there for the bid. And I think it would be a great time for them to come back and, talk about a lot of the work they've done, because I think they've done a tremendous job. And I think we forget how critical they are to the downtown. All the businesses along the river are constantly saying, oh my goodness, they are the most incredible thing that's ever happened to the city. So I just want that to be really clear so that we all are rowing in the same direction, because otherwise it is very hard to make things that are siloed work.
Absolutely.
So have you had those conversations with everyone too down there? With the bid and?
Yeah, so the bid is actually part of our daily huddle. I can't remember his position, Austin,
yeah.
He sits on those meetings with us. What that provides is just someone from the downtown area that has been working in these, pockets, or say the amphitheater. They're familiar with the constant concerns in that area. So they've been part of the conversations.
Yeah.
I think we're all in it together, really. And with the outreach arm becoming part of the overall operations, they'll continue to be part of that piece as well.
Okay, that'll be great. All right, we're gonna move on. Ward 1.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think good presentation, and I support this. I think it is a good approach. I voiced a lot of my concern and my vote finally against the super shelter that became the care shelter on having some outreach of specialized expertise to the folks who are at the encampments, and that's what this seems to be. And then the option of buying motels with the pandemic money, and we took that step yesterday. So I'm glad to see this, and I am supportive. I had the same question too. I was looking at my calendar. It's 16 months, so you have a whole year on this particular scope to create metrics of, internal metrics. They don't have to be in the scope of what represents success on this contract. As I see it, it was $400,000 out of the contingency, which is $1 million budget. So we've got a year breather on budgeting for this service. So it'd be a conversation for next budget, but 2 budgets from now. But in terms of what the other colleagues brought up, I really do believe in that we need for each of these services a scoping, that could maybe be on a chart, and metrics of success. Because when I hear the downtown ambassadors, I knew that my understanding, and that came out of the downtown plan, was they had 4 or 5 other aspects to it, telling tourists to go here or here, where's the trash, not necessarily direct service, but they do have a role. Mm-hmm. And so the Qualicon contract, that has a role, but that's maybe purely not interacting, right? Just a chart so we can all get it in our minds, the funding commitments at budget, but most importantly, and I took a whole class on this in grad school. I don't know, maybe there's some training that you guys could go into, is feedback evaluation, for performance evaluation, understanding, and I know HUD has so many good parameters for this, is, when you have something, how do you measure it? How do you evaluate it? How do you, make decisions going forward? But I think this will be a strong service. I think it's a good group, and I'm really excited to see them having gelled into a service provider. So I'm excited. I support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Reese.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple of things, as far as, first of all, I thought the presentation was outstanding. I need a copy of the org chart that you put up.
Absolutely.
So if I could see that, please. Second is the 16 months, I think I'll just reveal that was my ask during our processes, because I wanted to make sure that the contract aligned with our budget and fiscal year. I didn't want to be in the middle of something where we couldn't extend the contract if we decide to do that later. And I've seen that happen with a number of different proposals. And then we're always caught with the project outside of the budget. So anyone who is concerned about it, that was my thinking. About the presentation, I wanted to sort of just acknowledge that, all human beings make garbage. And so I don't want to overly focus on the metrics or size of the garbage. I make garbage every day, but I get to put it in a can and it gets taken away to the curb. Then it goes to waste management. And so this is why I have, continued to ask for additional, waste management involvement along our river. It's not also just unsheltered people who are leaving garbage, people who walk down there, ride their bike, they throw down their piece of trash, whatever it is. I mean, some of the stuff that ends up in the river is clearly not being put there by unsheltered people. Right. It's car parts and weird furniture. And so, again, I just want to make sure our focus is on acknowledgement that we all make garbage. I would like us to have more garbage cans available to people who can place the garbage in them. And so it is important about our quality of life. Our river is certainly a very important component of that. And you've heard, even today, we heard callers who were complaining about certain elements of garbage. Human beings make garbage. And so I want to make sure that we're addressing the concern rather than sort of demonizing any particular group of folks. So, third is that I would like to know what our stakeholder group looks like as it relates to our tribal communities. Obviously, the river is this life-giving and renewing force, but it was that way before we were here. And so I don't know, are the tribal entities involved in that stakeholder group? They certainly have sacred elements to the waters. And so I want to make sure that if they're not currently being part of the, I don't know if it's so much the huddle, but I want to know what we're doing to include them as part of that stakeholder group. KTMB often does elements of that are very important, but I think it should be part of our focus as well. And then I imagine that we might have some of the folks from RISE talk with us a little bit, but I'm going to say in a bit of an overtime moment for me, not only was Ms. Bryant instrumental in this program, but the mayor was as well. And the mayor very rarely takes credit, preferring to give that to others. But it was, I believe, a meeting that we had in December at which large parts of this ultimately came to arise at her direction. So she won't say it, so I will. So thanks a lot. Appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation. And I do hope that we'll have the opportunity to speak with the folks who've come so graciously with their time from RISE.
Thank you, Devin. You do not ever have to say that, but thank you. Councilwoman Dewar.
Yeah, thanks so much. First of all, Cynthia, I think this was one of your best presentations. You were so calm, cool, and collected, and you had all the data at your fingertips, and I was really, really impressed. Number two, you talked about, and I think several council members talked about the overlap, potential conflict, or coordination. Right. My suggestion, and I don't know if this will work, but I really think you should look at geographic distribution of the efforts. So here's the challenge. Probably, maybe, I'm picking numbers out of the air, 80% of our houseless people or homeless people might be in so many blocks of downtown. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that there's another 20% that are in outlying areas. We heard today on the comments on Veterans Parkway, right, in culverts down in South Meadows, in Moana soccer field, and so on. And so what I want to make sure is that they get some attention. I understand that maybe there's a centralization of the issue, but the outlying areas need attention as well, and those people need help as well. And I think what's happening is people are getting pushed out further away, thinking, well, if I camp further away, nobody will bother me, right? I might be far from a grocery store or services, nobody will bother me. But I don't think we want to bother anybody. We want to offer help and resources. So I was very interested. Well, first of all, I want to say on RISE, I am so happy too. While I wasn't privileged to be part of the conversation, I conversed with them offline with various of their members. And I was at one meeting with the mayor too. I think it was quite a while back. And I am just so happy. They also offered to help with the overflow shelter. And I think that is something we should keep talking about. They offered to help with the overflow shelter at the old CAC. I know that's maybe a loaded issue, but I don't feel like we've adequately addressed it. I mean, it's still snowing. And I'm not conversant with that issue. So just something to put a mark on in further conversation. I was very interested in the fact that you listed who got housed. And I don't know if that slide could come back up, but the Safe Camp had the largest number of people that were there and then got housed. But I didn't see the CARES campus, and maybe I was missing this. Did anyone from the CARES campus get housed?
Yeah, we did transport, and when I say we, it's the team, provided transportation to the CARES campus. I highlighted these specifically because they're longer-term transitional housing projects. So the Safe Camp, there's case management. Village at Sage, you have to have income to utilize that facility. Hope Spring, same thing.
But are these the place they started and then they ended at a place, or are these the places they went to?
These are the places that we facilitated the process to get them into.
So the people came into the Safe Camp?
Correct.
Not left the Safe Camp?
Correct.
Okay, I misunderstood. So another metric could be a companion metric. Once they got to a Safe Camp or Village at Sage Street, were they able to get to a place that somebody might consider longer than 3 to 6 months housing for going forward? Okay, I think that would be a great metric to share with us going forward. And that's all I really had to say. I'm just really pleased with this direction, so thank you.
Thank you. I would highlight, when it comes to the housing arrangements, when we I don't want to say hand someone off, but when we facilitate
Transition.
someone's enrollment to transition into these facilities, there is case management that's connected to that, so we could certainly reach out and see if there is information that they could share.
Got it.
So as far as next steps.
All right, thanks.
All right, Vice Mayor Jordan.
Thank you very much. I do, to Councilwoman Dewar's comments about, we get a tremendous amount, and I don't know if you got the stats on the increase of calls for encampments and trash in the outer lying areas, but it certainly appears to me that the volume of emails and calls and Reno Direct calls and voicemails we get here at council has definitely increased in areas outside of the downtown core. And I mean, there's a huge number of contributing factors to that. So, my preference would be that these contracts, whether it's this one or the Karma boxes, that they focus on those areas to begin with.
Yeah.
So not only so we can address those, because those seem to be increasing in numbers, but also to do a little effectiveness sort of evaluation. And we can also start seeing how it's all going to interface and interact with the Downtown Reno Partnership. I mean, the bid is doing incredible work. Alice Statinsky does phenomenal job. They have social outreach specialists. They are experts in this area as well. And I think there's an opportunity where we can maybe start outside of the downtown area, evaluate how things are going before we start throwing all groups together at once. But I do think that the coordination, if there are hot spots where we believe all other opportunities for connecting people with services have been exhausted, and RISE, has the capability and the ability to connect those individuals to services, and then obviously we want to pursue those as well, because we know there are some difficult pockets within the bid. But I don't want it to be at the diminishment of the great work that the bid is doing. I can't say that enough. And I would like to, even though the contract, now I understand why it's 16 months, I think it's important that we, at the 12-month mark, get a report back. We ask for an annual report from the Downtown Reno Partnership. It is very data-driven. I think we're going to need that from this contract as well. And that's it.
Great. Something, as you were mentioning, the report with RISE, I would like to highlight they will be available weekends and nights, so different hours, which is something else that will be a great tool. But yeah, the coordination it's definitely going to take a lot of mapping and suggestions and maybe readjustments as we launch these initiatives.
So my last question is, I know that the Downtown Reno Partnership has a vehicle, and they've done a number of transports to a variety of services and sheltering locations. I also know that VOA now has a vehicle where they help to get their clientele to driver's licenses and that sort of thing. Does RISE, do you all have a vehicle? We haven't even asked you to come up to the podium yet, and I'm sure they have tremendous more to say. But that's one of it. That's always an inhibitor to getting people from point A to point B with all of their belongings. So
Right.
That's my question. I saw a head shake, yes. So
It is part of the contract. Clean and Safe also has vehicles. that we have available. Karma Box as well. So we have that van. The Downtown Reno Partnership, their van has been incredibly helpful in the downtown area. And then the VOA also has a van. So there's different groups that have vehicles. So we all kind of just call each other and get assistance as needed. But I know Ben is here. I don't know if you want to provide a few remarks.
We will. We'll have Ben come up 1 second. Let me just send it over to Councilman Reese.
Thank you so much. I want to wrap up this part of this by saying a couple things. First, there has been and there were ongoing conversations to Member Dewar's point about Rise's involvement potentially with any kind of overflow. And I think there were just enough barriers that we were trying to look for other opportunities, meaning the county really is occupying largely that space now and we were not in it. And so I think that there was some impetus to say, well, what can we do together? And I guess what I want to bring back is this point. I think all too often because of social media about the division that we see broadly in our society, that there is somehow a belief that it's us versus the advocates in some way. And certainly I do not believe that's the case. In the last year, I've had the opportunity to, meet Miss Wigglesworth, for example. We sat on a panel together and I felt like we had a great human connection. Miss Barron, who is not here today, but is often in these conversations, Ms. Handler, Mr. Castro. These are all people who have a different role than we do. The advocate community, I think, oftentimes can push us to make better decisions, can help us to understand a perspective that we all do not have, and that those decisions help us to more broadly implement policy. Sometimes advocacy happens outside of government. Sometimes it happens with government. This is an example, I think, of where the two can meet and find an opportunity to serve people who need help. And so, again, I think back to some of the conversations I've had with my colleagues, certainly hundreds of hours of conversations I've had with Madam Mayor about some of these issues. And it's just the moment to reflect upon. And I think Mr. Castro said something funny in a meeting we had, which was like, you don't want to have us hearing or saying stuff to you as much or as often. Will hire us, right? And that's how it kind of happened, I think, with the Our Place model. The Our Place model is fantastic. It is such a joy to be on the campus and to see the folks whose lives are being transformed and the work that Rise is doing there. I think without that track record, I would be, someone would be cautious about working with folks who have, maybe historically been at odds with some of the positions we've taken. I don't think it means that we all have to hold hands, sing Kumbaya going forward. I think it just means that we have to respect the respective positions that each of the groups have taken and work in a manner that is designed to help the folks that need the help the most. So we have to put ego aside. We have to step back from it. And I think part of the thing that is very exciting for me about your team, Mrs. Barza, that you have built from the ground up is I see that every day with the members of it. So again, another layer of security for me as we make this financial commitment to go in this other direction, which obviously I support 100%.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Perfect.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, how about Ben? Why don't you come up? That would be great.
Sorry, behind you.
And maybe for the council members that don't know you, that haven't met you, just kind of talk about a little bit who you are, why you got involved, and now where you're at. You're out here.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for your time. Benjamin Castro, for the record. I'm the executive director of the Reno Initiative for Shelter and Equality. I've been doing this for 11 years now. The last 9 were completely voluntary, as in I had a day job and just really strong opinions for the most part. Like most of you, or like all of you, I'm a dedicated public servant. And I think we want the same thing, which is to build a community where all of our residents can thrive. I absolutely understand the concern about collaboration and coordination, given our very vocal history of being strong advocates and compassionate advocates. But we are at a position to where if you're going to work for the community, you have to work with the community. So this partnership, I think, demonstrates our joint resolve to serve to the best of our ability, everybody who needs our help. So that's just kind of where I'm at. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
Yeah, I think it would be good, just kind of tell us like what you think that you bring to the table. Give them a picture of like what this looks like.
So the benefits of peer support, people with lived experience, the folks the most shelter resistant are likely the most traumatized people in our community. So unless you have firsthand knowledge of the fear, the shame, the depression, the loneliness, the survivor's guilt, the traumatic stress that is involved with being outside, being invisible. I say this a lot, but this community, the folks that we serve, most of the times they're treated as they're invisible, and the only times they're not treated like they're invisible is when they're reminded that they're not welcome here. So you need people who understand that that array of feelings to do that engagement and that motivation. So the benefits of bringing on peers, folks who are active in their recovery, folks who have conquered their either undiagnosed or untreated mental illness, people who have gone from unsheltered to a thriving lifestyle, is we get to be living proof that there's life after this point. And that if I can do it, you can do it, and we can show you how. So that's I think, the skills that we bring.
Yeah, I love that. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. That's awesome. Any questions? Go ahead, Councilwoman Durr.
Yeah, just a question. I don't have a sense of how big of a staffing component, I guess I'll call it, you have. And is everyone a volunteer? Are most people paid? Give us just a basic sense of this organization.
For this particular contract or just in general?
No, just in general.
So we have 58 colleagues that are on payroll. Prior to that, we had a network of around 700 volunteers. COVID kind of put a hampering on who could be where and why. This contract would add on an additional 5 paid staff.
Okay. So 58, and then are there any volunteers on top of the 58 paid?
We do still have some loyal volunteers who still volunteered throughout the pandemic.
Wow.
So there's about 15 groups that we still work with, still doing dinner service, things of that nature. But we're always, COVID's rocked everybody's world.
And
right?
for most of the people, you said you have a quote day job, is I think how you termed it, or another job. Do most of the 58 have another job, and this is a part-time job for them, or do most?
Oh no, I get to. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I get to do this full time now.
Okay,
so.
full time. And what about the others?
Absolutely, they work here now. So for
Full
Rise.
time?
Yes.
Okay, that I didn't understand. Mostly at our place.
Mostly at our
Yeah.
place. Yes.
And then for this contract, in particular, how many are you planning to dedicate to this effort?
So we would have 2 full-time colleagues and then 3 full-time equivalent contractors.
So essentially 5?
5.
And this compares to the bid, I think they have 10 or 15, I'm not sure. More now. 22. Okay, so comparative, it's about 25% of the staffing. And I guess it's just part of that conversation about geographic focus. Are the 5 going to focus downtown? Are they going to focus in out areas? I think these are some things, Cynthia, that need to be discussed and thought through. Are we just going to increase our focus downtown? Are we going to actually add to this external outreach?
Right. It's definitely going to be citywide.
Okay, great. And lastly, I'm looking forward to the metrics. I think it will be so helpful to your point about an annual review, even at 6 months. How's it going? What are we doing? Have we set up metrics? Are people feeling comfortable with this? Do we need to make some changes based on what we've experienced? So I would say 6 months and a year, and then we'll sort of get queued up for the budget process, potentially. So. Thank you.
If I can add on to a few of those things. So our philosophy is that relationships is what motivate people.
Sure.
So if you build that trust and then you can start building that relationship, they're more likely to listen to your guidance. Certainly not interested in stepping on anybody's toes or having redundant services. So I do agree that having geographic boundaries, I guess, is what we're concerned about. That makes a lot of sense. But I'm also not opposed to if 3 groups have already tried engagement with a particular area and they're not
gotcha.
working, maybe our team can.
Yeah, come in as a different kind of approach, a different alternative, maybe more successful.
Could be.
Even if it is a downtown, layered, multi-layered downtown effort.
Yeah, and that goes both ways. Like if we're not successful with engagement, maybe we call Grant's team, maybe we call Austin's team. Whatever
Okay.
is going to get that person to act.
All right, thanks.
Okay, Councilman Delgado.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. More of a comment, but just for clarity, Cynthia, you're in charge, right?
Correct.
So I think
It's
you've
me.
done a heck of a job already. So the
Thank
last thing I
you.
want to do is kind of direct you as things are complicated and they move dramatically from this week to next week, depending on where things are happening. And so my hope is with the extensive amount of organizational charts that you laid out in front of us, it's complicated, that you'd also want to have the opportunity to kind of figure things out as they go, right? So great job, continue that hard work. The other one is also want to just give props to Rise. I really appreciate there's always a conversation of looking out to our community and saying, get involved. They've been getting involved, and then it's also, let's put it down on paper and let's put structures together, and you guys did. You guys are doing a great job at Our Place, so congratulations with that. With my other hat at CHA, I know they work closely with your guys' team there as well, so appreciate the thoughtfulness in the way you guys care about the folks and the different vantage points as we can kind of start to look at. We work with all of our folks across the city, but just more of a comment. Appreciate just people wanting to get involved rather than just kind of chirping, right? So appreciate that. Means a lot, man. So thank you. Great job, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Your leadership has already been shown, so good job, and lead us, and look forward to the data points here in the next six months or to a year.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Just really quickly, because I think we're good and we need to move on. Can we talk a little bit, what's your thought on the neighborhoods? Because we're also seeing, problems in the neighborhoods as well. And those people need to have services just as much. And so can we talk about what that's going to look like?
As far as outreach in neighborhoods, I think outreach is everywhere within the city of Reno. We do, look at our service requests, but there's stuff that may be happening that we're not seeing, that maybe when, our outreach team is driving somewhere, they see it. So I think outreach could happen anywhere, whether it's in a residential area, in a park, along the river, but it's throughout the city of Reno.
I guess I would just
Yeah.
ask that maybe council members, because of your words, because, I'm on all the next doors or whatever, the
Right.
neighborhood or whatever it is, but, and you're seeing it a lot. And so I get a lot of calls, and then we go out there and we can have some pretty good success. Again, I know firsthand that we've had pretty good success of getting people in a place within 48 hours.
Right.
So, but I am seeing it in a lot of the neighborhoods, and, the conditions just are not good and it's not safe. And they're just trying to get shelter anywhere they can find it. And so,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we're also paying attention to the neighborhoods and not just our downtown.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think if there's anything that you observe or see via Nextdoor, I've received screenshots in the past, and we direct resources as needed, so feel free to send those our way as well. I would also add that with the ILA with NDOT, we also have the ability to provide outreach on their parcels, of course, and there's quite a few in South Reno that are seeing a lot of activity. So, there's multiple layers, but again, it's a lot of coordination and collaboration, but we'll get there.
All right, thank you so much, Cynthia. Okay.
Madam
with that
Mayor,
being said-
you ready for a motion?
Yeah, Vice Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I would make a motion to approve with the understanding, and my colleagues, if I get some of this wrong, please let me know, that there will be an update at the 6-month mark and a more in-depth sort of data update at the 12-month mark. Is that the only conditions that I kind of heard?
And
as
I
we
would just
update?
say it should come from the bid. Alex Tatinsky I would like him to bring it forward a report.
Well, and he will yes, for sure. Alex brings his annual reports as well. But maybe an understanding, maybe what we could, let me back up my motion. A motion to approve with the understanding that there will be updates, including data at the 6 and the 12-month mark. In addition, in 30 days, if we could get an update on the coordination and collaboration of all of the entities in this space. Is that fair?
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just briefly, Madam Mayor, I'm not as familiar with the bid, and so I'm at a little bit of a loss to understand their role in it. Not because I don't believe that they're not a great entity. They have done some really incredible things, but I just don't know entirely what it will be about. So that's my only hesitancy as to the overall thing. More coordination, more communication as a direction is always a good thing, but I do want to make sure I sort of hold space for the people who are, especially in the lived experience world, understanding that my faith ultimately will fall with you, Mrs. Sparza, to organize and capture the thoughts of the folks. I think we can get all these other things, and that's why we'll be supportive of it. But I just don't know enough about the role of the bid in this space.
Well, Madam Mayor? May I?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. And that's where the 30-day sort of update on how the coordination is all kind of rolling out, I think is important because they do. I mean, Austin has lived experience. I know a number of the members
He
in the
worked at
bid.
the shelter.
And there are two social outreach specialists that this is their, best practices space. So I just want to make sure, maybe at the 30-day mark is where we get a better understanding because you'll have had at least a period of time, you're like 30 days, to kind of see how it's all kind of rolling out. You'll have the daily updates, which are tremendous. And I think they're going to work out any of the kinks as we move forward. But maybe coming back to this body in 30 days to say how those kinks have been worked out, who's doing what sort of in what spaces, just as an update from you. And if you want to bring the representatives from all of the different entities involved, I think that would be helpful as well.
Great.
So that's my motion. I apologize, it was really long.
Okay, so I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ben. Thanks you guys for being here. Really means a lot. All right, Madam Clerk, I'm going to send it back to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're moving on to item E1, which is an ordinance introduction to be read by the city attorney.
Would you like me to go ahead and take it away, Madam Mayor?
Yes, go right ahead.
All right. Ordinance Introduction Bill Number 7202, Ordinance to amend Title 5 of the Reno Municipal Code entitled Privileged Licenses, Permits, and Franchises by consolidating Chapter 5.21 entitled Medical Marijuana Establishments and Chapter 5.22 entitled Marijuana Establishments into Chapter 5.22 to be entitled Medical and Adult Use Cannabis Establishments with amended provisions allowing for 2 additional adult use cannabis retail stores to be licensed, modified language to reflect Nevada revised statutes and Nevada cannabis compliance regulations, and the removal of unnecessary language to avoid duplicity with state regulation together with other matters which pertain to or are necessarily connected therewith.
All right, fantastic. Thank you. Madam Clerk, do you have any public comment on this?
Madam Mayor, we do have public comment in the audience from Sev Carlson.
I figured you did. Come on up, Mr. Carlson. Nice to see you.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Sev Carlson here on behalf of our client Conjurium LLC. Conjurium is one of the 2 state provisional license holders that aren't currently recognized under the city's code. We want to thank your staff and the council for its prior direction to your staff to open up the ordinance and to consider those 2 state provisional licenses here in the city. And with respect to the general updates, we're supportive of those as well. So I'll leave those as the comments, and thank you again for your consideration.
Okay, thank you so much. Madam Clerk, any further public comment? No? Okay. Hello, Mr. Ferretto, it's all you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, council members.
So before you today, we have proposed amendments to 521 and 522, which govern the regulation of cannabis, as we are now calling it. As you will remember, last October, we discussed possible code amendments, consumption lounges, and hours of operation, among other topics. I want to be clear that today's item revolves solely around two subjects. Primarily, the modification to code that increases the limit of 8 retail stores to 10, and secondly, administrative cleanup, which includes terminology updates, removal of duplicative guidance, consolidating of the medical and adult cannabis code to streamline regulation. So first, the increase to the retail stores. Per NRS, Washoe County is permitted to issue up to 20 licenses. Based on population, Reno was allotted 10 of those licenses. And as you know, in 2018, council limited that number to 8, which leaves us with the remaining 2. So you recognize this from my last presentation. I wanted to remind council where all the locations are located in the city. Of note, since the redistricting, we have had one shift from Ward 3 to Ward 5. And you'll also see a bit of a snapshot of the revenue by fiscal year over there on the right-hand side that we've accumulated since inception of the retail side of things. So, as I mentioned, the secondary purpose of this proposed amendment or cleanup code. The state has introduced new terminology, so it's important to be consistent with that. For example, marijuana is now cannabis, recreational is now adult use, among some of the other changes that are in the revision. Secondly, an abundant amount of the current code simply duplicates state law. So this cleanup would basically reference state laws when applicable and then maintain the city-specific regulation as needed. And lastly, Chapter 521, which regulates medical cannabis, and 522, which is adult use cannabis, were written at separate times but mirror each other in many ways. This consolidation will create a streamlined version of what we have today. So lastly, staff recommends council refer this ordinance introduction for a second reading and adoption. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, great job, thank you. Councilman Breckus.
Yeah, thank you. Good presentation, good use of, just a few slides, the map, very clear delivery. Remind me again, those 2 licenses that we're adding in, those are somehow contingent or conditionally approved, right?
That's correct. Conditionally approved at the state.
And then they can go anywhere on the map, they meet certain criteria, right?
Exactly.
And then it just comes to us for privilege.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Okay, well, that's good to know. And then is medical not a thing any longer?
My discussions with the Cannabis Compliance Board, it's shifted to where medical still exists, obviously, but the majority of the business is done on the retail side. Those licenses are still out there. There's not a real influx of applications. If there were to open up an application period, we would see. But my discussions with their agency haven't revealed that it's a big.
Okay.
component
Okay.
anymore.
Well, great. Well, I'm willing to make a motion to refer if no one else wants to speak. Okay, I got a second, so I did make that motion.
Hold on a second, I'd like to ask some questions. Just 1 minute. One of the things that we talked about is that, remember we were talking about how when the license changes hands, like in our alcohol, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or business, that it has to come back to this body in order to approve it. Have we done that?
So we've had a couple come through. One in particular I can remember coming to council when they meet certain criteria. Essentially, the way we were trying to gear this is a lot like we mirror gaming in those regulations, in that the state has vetted these applications, given their approval for a transfer of ownership or something similar to that.
Mhm.
And then once they give us the appropriate paperwork that backs that up,
Yeah.
then we can move forward with it.
I just think when it comes to the cannabis, it should come to this body. I just really feel strongly about that. We should know. Because am I right? Alcohol does.
Well, alcohol does in the sense that if there's a simple transfer of ownership where somebody's buying a bar from A to B,
Yeah.
someone buys one from somebody else, then yes, that transfer would come through.
Yeah.
If it was a change in licensee, the code doesn't really accommodate for that right now. You
Yeah.
can get through without going to council if you're added onto a license and not.
I think we should change that, quite honestly. I do. I think it should be, we should know. And not to mention, how many of them, Lance, you could probably tell me, are now owned by Canadian companies. Everyone flipped those licenses.
Sure.
I mean, they're all laughing at us.
Yeah, I don't have those facts right in front of me, but there's definitely
If
some.
you could find out, we should all know who those local companies are. Because, I think, quite honestly, the ones that have really stayed local, they really try to invest back in the community, which is really cool. And they are really good community partners. And the other thing that I would say, and maybe I just throw it out there, but again, one of the things that we should never allow one of these next to a rehab.
Next to what?
A rehabilitation center, a drug rehab.
In the way the code is written, if everything is investigated properly and vetted, then that would not happen.
Is that new? Because it has happened.
Well, it's basically known as a community facility in Title 18, or a community facility, or those that are affiliated with a rehab listed under that specific NRS. So yeah, and I think in the past there was confusion on that, and it was an unadvertised rehab facility. If I'm thinking of the same situation that you're bringing up,
And
but that's my understanding.
And it's right next door.
Right.
So I just can't do that. But then, yeah, never mind. I'm not even going to go there. But just saying it publicly, I think it's smart because anyone coming in for a new license should know, don't look at anything next to a drug rehabilitation center.
Absolutely.
All right. Councilwoman Dewar, I thought no, nothing? Okay. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Mayor, we're on item F1 in ordinance adoption.
Ordinance adoption. Ordinance number 6620, case number LDC 22-00027, North Valley's Commerce Center zoning map amendment. Ordinance to amend Title 18, Chapter 18.02 of the Reno Municipal Code entitled Zoning, rezoning a plus or minus 256.3 acre site comprised of 14 parcels from mixed-use suburban to industrial commercial. The site is generally located on the north and south sides of North Virginia Street near its intersection with Doubleback Road and has an industrial and suburban mixed-use master planned land use designations, Ward 4.
Madam Mayor, we have none registered.
I'm
Move to
gonna turn it over
adopt.
Councilwoman Weber. I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, heading over to item F2.
Ordinance adoption, ordinance number 6621, case number LDC 21-00070, Little City Landscape Specific Plan District, ordinance to amend Title 18, Chapter 18.02 of the Reno Municipal Code entitled Zoning, rezoning a plus or minus 1.51 acre area from MF 30 multifamily residential to Little City Landscape Specific Plan District and amending Little City Landscape Specific Plan District Handbook to add enhanced site development standards and modify permitted uses and hours of operation.
Okay, thank you so much. Madam Clerk, do you have any
Not
public
quite
comment?
done.
No? You're not done?
Still going.
Oh, you're still going? Oh.
The plus or minus 1.86 acre subject site includes two parcels located on the
hurry
south
up.
side of Linden Street, plus or minus 450 feet west of Kitsky Lane. The site has master plan land use designations of suburban mixed use and multifamily neighborhood, Ward 1.
All right, Ward 1, sending it to you.
Move to adopt.
I know it's like this, right, Carl? Okay, I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right, great. Heading back to you, H1, Madam Clerk, City Council comments, including announcements regarding city boards, commissions, activities of local charitable organizations, and upcoming local community events. Anything? I know we all have a ton, like, let's be honest, we do. But, all of us are crazy busy. I know I am, so that means you guys are, so. Nope, okay, we're gonna move right along.
One.
Go ahead.
The Historic Resources Commission has met. They had a workshop last 2 weeks ago, and they've adopted their strategic plan that will be forwarded to you. They've adopted a work program, but the number one item that they want in the work program is a letter to be brought forward with a request, and I'll make it as, allowed by our rules. Any member can ask for an item on the agenda is my interpretation, and I will be asking on their behalf to put into place and re-kick that whole parks renaming, issue, parks public space renaming issue. So just want to let you know, I'll be asking our manager, as is my privilege of membership, to have an item on the agenda. Thank you.
All right, and then George from Flood Board, we want to get with you to sit down and talk about you.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, George, what's George's last name?
Robinson.
Oh, yeah, Robinson. Would like to get with both of us, to talk about Flood Board.
Yes, okay.
So I'll reach out to you on that.
Thank
All right,
you.
perfect. But back at you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With that, we don't have any items. We're moving on to closing public comment. If you're an attendee and would like to make a comment in our closing comment, please raise your hand at this time. It should be noted for the record that we received one concerned letter, either general in nature or after 4 p.m. yesterday. And we do have one voicemail, which we will play at this time.
Yes, I hope this message reaches out to whomever is in charge of this situation. Okay, this message is in regards of speeding, a chronic speeding issue. Okay, I've been complaining about this for the last 23 years. This is not something new. 23 years I've been complaining about this on the speeding issue. And this is up on northwest Reno, especially on 7th Street between Conway Lane and McCarran. Okay? And it's in both directions, west and east. This is this is a continuous problem, and this is getting worse and worse year after year. And nothing seems to be done in regards of this problem. I have complained over and over and over and over. I get some bullshit fucking response from somebody from the police department telling me, "Oh, we don't have any."
Kudos to Brian for doing it. Okay, and with that, we have no additional public comment, so we're just looking for a motion to adjourn.
Aye.
Thank you.